Chapter 1308. It was a hot place. The heavenly treasure had been decided. Even though it had powerful energy, it was still a treasure and not a powerful cultivator. It could resist and create a barrier, but it could not resist a powerful force. The red-yellow essence ape held the giant rod formed by the light pillar and roared into the sky. It was as if it had gone mad and could not contain its excitement. It used the most primitive and simplest way for a demonic beast to vent. It roared continuously. In this battlefield, in front of everyone and in front of more than 10 sage kings of the sorcerer tribe, it was so brazen. It had won. It was him who had the last laugh. Every sorcerer tribe cultivator's face was pale. They could accept the heavenly treasure falling into anyone's hands, but if it fell into the hands of the demon clan, it was a great humiliation. #at. A sorcerer tribe cultivator roared angrily. Lin Feng's eyes were burning. Although he did not understand the sorcerer tribe's language, he could understand what the sorcerer tribe cultivator meant. Following his roar, not only the sage kings in the circle, but also the sage sorcerer tribe cultivators outside the circle were enraged. Almost instantly the crowd surged forward. They attacked the red-yellow essence ape, who was holding the rod with both hands angrily. They wanted to destroy it. How could the sorcerer tribe allow the demon clan to behave so atrociously? If the heavenly treasure is taken away by the demon clan today, the battle between the sorcerer tribe and the demon clan will be over. Lin Feng's eyes were burning as he thought to himself. The sorcerer tribe would lose face if they were slapped in the face in their own territory. The sorcerer emperor's reputation would be ruined. The sorcerer tribe cultivators would either fight among themselves or lose their morale. This would be a heavy blow to the sorcerer tribe, the main force of the 3 major tribes. However, based on numbers, could the sorcerer tribe cultivators win? Or rather, could they gain the upper hand? Lin Feng's eyes lit up. The battle was about to start. Whoosh! The giant rod formed by the light pillar shone brightly. The red-yellow essence ape's eyes shone brightly. It had already kept the giant rod. It was not always better to have more weapons. Only the hands could bring out the greatest power of the staff, and the red-yellow ape was also good at this. What was different from before was that the material and grade of this giant staff had changed. Boom! Golden light shone brightly. The heavenly unique treasure showed its ferocious appearance. In the hands of the red-yellow essence ape, it emitted a domineering aura, displaying the tyrannical power of the unique treasure to its fullest. Rumble! The staff fell, shocking the world. Space and time seemed to have been shattered into pieces. At this moment, everyone's hearts seemed to have stopped beating. The power of the cudgel was shocking to the extreme. Puff, puff. The 2 saint kings of the sorcerer tribe, who were the closest and also the fiercest in their attacks, were instantly sent flying. Before he could even put up a proper defense, he had already been heavily injured. The other saint kings were all forced back by the tyrannical stellar chi. At this moment, the martial saints of the sorcerer tribe charged forward with an absolute advantage in numbers. The red-yellow ape held the staff with both hands and raised it to the sky. Sizzle! Sizzle sizzle! Lightning flashed, and the terrifying power seemed to destroy everything. The surging star source energy continued to gather, completely releasing its power under the guidance of the giant staff. Originally, the red-yellow essence ape was already strong enough, but now that it had obtained the heavenly treasure, it was like a tiger that had grown wings, reaching a whole new level. So strong. Lin Feng's expression changed abruptly. He stepped back lightly. If he was not careful, this kind of attack would affect him. At this moment, there was no need to get involved. Many martial saints with good eyesight also retreated, including Zhao. He glanced sideways and saw Lin Feng, but a light flashed in his eyes, and he ignored him. At this moment, everyone's eyes were focused on one point. This battle was not to be missed. We'll lose for sure. Lin Feng was secretly shocked. With the power of the red-yellow essence ape, the sorcerer tribe could not make up for it with their advantage in numbers. Perhaps heavenly spirit masters were better at joint attacks, but the sorcerer tribe was all hand-to-hand combat. The joint attacks of heavenly martial artists in close combat were not as strong as those of the ancient tribe. The sorcerer tribe was the strongest in one-on-one battles, but at this moment, which sorcerer tribe expert could fight against this red-yellow essence ape? Lin Feng's eyes flashed. The Candle Dragon sorcerer tribe member who was close to Zhao might have this ability. He felt that his aura was even stronger than that of the corpse wizard king. If he guessed correctly, he must be the Candle Dragon sorcerer king. But from his expression and reaction, he had no intention of joining the battle, and he clearly knew the difference in power. He was not as good as the red-yellow essence ape. Other than Gu Xing, no one can fight against it. Lin Feng thought to himself. However, Gu Xing was in the midst of an intense battle with Senior Ox, and Senior Ox should be stronger. But he could not see through Gu Xing's power, and as an ancient god of the ancient tribe, he must have a powerful heaven-level treasure. It was still unknown who was stronger. At least, there was no clear winner now. But here the outcome has been decided. Lin Feng's heart sank. He could not bear to continue watching, because the sorcerer tribe experts would gather in the next second, and the red-yellow essence ape's rod would fall, and there would be corpses everywhere. Saint-level experts might be awe-inspiring and powerful in the human territory, but no matter if it was the sorcerer tribe or the ancient tribe, they were merely experts who had just entered the door. Especially when facing a sage king-level expert, the difference in power was like heaven and earth. Boom! Boom! Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. Golden star source energy bloomed, causing a change in the level of space. The path of strength and path of metal combined perfectly. Lin Feng's eyes shone as he moved. He could not see the secret of the red-yellow essence ape, but his heart was extremely sensitive, and he forcefully memorized every detail of the red-yellow essence ape's movements. These were the best teaching materials for him. Because this powerful demon tribe expert was the Ursa Major constellation, which was exactly the same as his clone, one of the 5 great emperor constellations. It could control 3 paths of heaven and earth. The path of metal, path of strength, and path of space. It's here. Lin Feng's eyes flashed. As the red-yellow essence ape's eyes flashed with a cold light, his heart began to beat rapidly. But at this moment, a bright ray of light shot over without a sound. There was no sound, but it was comparable to the world's heaviest sound, causing the entire space to become still. At this moment, no sound could be heard. Only that light was left between heaven and earth, leaving behind an existence that was like the arc of the heavens, cutting through the void. Lin Feng's eyes widened, as if he was suffocating. At this moment, a giant star shone in the starry sky, overshadowing the demon tribe's emperor star. He had come. Ominous land, illusory array. Up down, up down. Just like what he had seen before, the changes on the stone wall were all imprinted in his heart. Whoosh! Whoosh! Lin Feng did not stop, and with the fastest speed, he entered the array with the best efficiency. Continuously deciphering the overlapping and mirror was fatal for those who did not know about arrays, but for those who knew a little about arrays, it was not that difficult. Especially for Lin Feng, who had comprehended the essence of arrays under Shun's guidance, and was already somewhat proficient. I wonder how many layers there are. Lin Feng pursed his lips tightly. In his ears, the sound of the wind and the sound of the cranes, the demonic sounds, and the screams of the malicious ghosts continuously seeped into his heart and lungs. This kind of illusory power was beyond his ability. He could not decipher it. Moreover, as he continued to go deeper and closer to the array core, the power of the illusory power became more and more terrifying. Every second felt like he was in hell, suffering extreme torment. His body was already covered in wounds, and even his mind was almost unable to bear it, panting heavily. No. Lin Feng secretly gritted his teeth. If this continued, before he could find the array core, he was afraid that his soul would disperse. But what could he do? As he pondered, 3 malicious ghosts came in front of him, like 3 terrifying wild beasts, passing through like phantoms. Lin Feng moved sideways, but he could not dodge. At this moment, if he retreated, he would definitely be attacked again, and if he took a few steps forward, he would be able to break through another layer of the stone wall. Gamble! Chi! His body moved sideways, but his brain suddenly felt a sharp pain, and Lin Feng's face became pale. Pooh! Blood was violently spat out, and his body was in a daze. His soul was greatly shaken. When there was a gamble, there were naturally losses. Damn it! Even so, at least he won some time. This time, it's actually a soul attack. Lin Feng resisted the pain, and the amethyst spear in his hand shone brightly. Facing the stone wall in front of him that was constantly colliding, the light of thunder suddenly blasted out. Heavenly thunder roared, but this moment was somewhat different from before. It seemed to be much closer, and the array core was already within the range of his senses. Lin Feng's eyes suddenly lit up. However, just as he entered a new world, the illusory attacks that were even more terrifying than the previous layer attacked again. One wave after another, like a ladder that did not stop. It's really not working. Lin Feng frowned anxiously and hurriedly dodged. If this continues, I definitely won't be able to hold on. Especially the soul attacks, every bit is a bit more, and it's really hard to recover. Lin Feng gritted his teeth. At this moment, the illusory attacks were more than 100 times stronger than before. If he was not careful, he would suffer a painful blow, comparable to a Saint King-level expert's attack directly into his body. In fact, if his doppelganger's body was not strong enough, he would probably have fallen in the previous few layers. Now, his body was injured again, and it was quite tragic. If not, I can only summon my main body. Lin Feng was gloomy. The principle of the array was very clear, especially this kind of array core, which was the same as the blood sauté secret realm. One person would bear 100% of the array's power, and 2 people would share half, weakening the array's power. If the main body joined, it would allow the doppelganger to hold on for a while longer, especially since the main body's soul was stronger. One had to know that the root of the illusory attacks was the soul. Wait. Lin Feng was suddenly startled. What if there is no soul? Lin Feng's eyes immediately lit up as a thought appeared in his mind. The illusory attacks could not be broken, but without a soul, they would not be affected at all. The array's illusory attacks would be broken by themselves. His doppelganger and main body both had powerful souls, including Wing and Hong Ling. However, among his contracted spiritual creatures, there was one that did not have a true soul. The 100-poison rainbow python. It's him. Lin Feng was extremely excited. Chapter 1309. The 100 Poisons Colored Python. It could be said to have been raised first and then suppressed later. Among his contracted spiritual creatures, it was once an existence second only to Wing. Especially its characteristics, when it fused with the astral treasure Rainbow Staff, it became a special tool. It had a true immortal body, and every time it was killed, it could revive in the Rainbow Staff. However, there were always losses. The 100 Poisons Colored Python's cultivation speed was too slow. This was only secondary. Most importantly, its strength was dependent on the Rainbow Staff's grade, so it had been stuck at peak star domain level, unable to advance any further. Previously, it was overtaken by Hong Ling and then by Wing. Now, Refining Puppet had officially entered the star domain level, and in time, it would definitely advance to the Saint level. The 100 Poisons Colored Python would eventually be eliminated. Even if it started early and was strong, its potential was not high. Hua! light flashed, and the rainbow staff appeared, bringing out the 100 poisons-colored python. Its huge body was colorful and poisonous. Lin Feng's eyes sparkled as he watched the 100 poisons-colored python appear. In an instant, the pressure on him decreased. It was as expected. That's it. Lin Feng clenched his fist, and his body flashed. Easily dodging the attacks of 2 illusions, Lin Feng's lips curled into a smile. The appearance of the 100 poisons-colored python was more effective than he had expected. It shared half of the pressure, but this half was not really half. Like before, there would be an average of 4 illusions attacking him in an instant, but now there were only 2. He could not block 4 illusions, so he had to take a gamble. But he could easily block 2 illusions, dodging one and blocking the other. The difference in this period was more than half. And most importantly, the 100 poisons-colored python was completely unharmed. Roar! Showing off, as if it had been put in an important position by its master, the 100 poisons-colored python was elated. The 100 poison-colored python was unruly as it sprayed out poisonous mist. It was not afraid of the illusions that were attacking it at all. There was no pain on its face because it realized that these illusions were all fake and could not hurt it at all. Let's go! Lin Feng shouted softly. The effect of their cooperation was better than he had imagined. Since that was the case, there was no need to rush. He might as well let the 100 poison rainbow python lead the way. If he were to lead the way, he would definitely be attacked even more fiercely. The illusions would always prioritize attacking those who were at the front, just like attracting firepower. However, at this moment, all he needed to do was to guide the way from behind, and he could easily avoid harm while recovering his body. Even though his injuries were not light, his physique would recover in a short period of time. Just like the 100 poison-colored python, it also had an immortal body. I'm here. Lin Feng stared ahead, feeling his heart pounding. At this moment, he was getting closer and closer to the center of the formation. What kind of existence could possess such power? Lin Feng's eyes were clear and bright. He was very curious. Sorcerer Realm. Kuei Tu and Lam Tok Ti's eyes sparkled as they smiled calmly. One demon and one human, strangely, fought side by side. At this moment, at their feet was a huge corpse with its eyes wide open. It had died with a grievance. The face of a human, the body of a beast, and the ears of a dog. The 100-meter-tall body was the standard body of a holy king-level sorcerer. The lines of its muscles were clear, and it seemed to be full of power. However, at this moment there was no sign of life. The corpse Wizard King Shi Bai. No one would have thought that one of the 12 wizard kings of the sorcerer tribe would die here. Third brother, you are indeed a good strategist. Kuei Tu's eyes were bright. Lam Tok Ti smiled calmly. Strength is the most important. Without Big Brother's help, even if the corpse Wizard King Shi Bai was heavily injured, it would not have been easy for us to take him down. Kuei Tu laughed. If he was at his peak, I would not have been his match. Lam Tok Ti sneered. Winner takes all. How can there be so many ifs? Looking at the corpse Wizard King Shi Bai, Lam Tok Ti's eyes were cold and disdainful. He can only blame himself for being rash and impulsive. He thought that this was his territory and acted without restraint. If he had not been so heavily injured, we would not have had the chance to catch such a big fish. Kuei Tu's eyes flashed. Jie Jie smiled and said, This is called the evils we bring upon ourselves. Stepping on the corpse of the corpse Wizard King Shi Bai without restraint, Kuei Tu looked at Lam Tok Ti. You really don't want this body? Lam Tok Ti shrugged. I am not used to the body of a sorcerer. Moreover, it is better to have one's own body. All right then, Kuei Tu said helplessly. Although it is a pity, third brother, if you wanted this body, your strength would immediately soar. The strength of us 3 brothers would definitely rise to another level. Lam Tok Ti smiled and said, Big brother, you should deal with it. With a faint light in his eyes, Lam Tok Ti also felt that it was a pity, but there were many things that he could not do. Although the three of them were brothers with different surnames, they each had their own plans and could not really trust each other. If he wanted the body of the Wizard King today, he might immediately be controlled by this big brother of different surnames. But it was different now. With his current strength, neither big brother nor second brother would care too much. Sometimes being weak was not a bad thing. In a hot place, Chi, the heavenly ark, appeared without a sound. His speed was extremely fast, leaving behind a series of afterimages. He was like a shooting star with a long tail as he flew over. From the moment it appeared to the moment it flew to where the red-yellow essence ape was, it felt like an instant but also like an eternity. This is... Lin Feng's eyes lit up. The attack of an invisible treasure made his heart palpitate in the same way. The feeling was exactly the same as the light pillar, just like a heavenly treasure. Lin Feng was extremely shocked. Looking at the heavenly arc in the sky that pierced through space, at this moment, the light flashed and completely condensed the original star power. It was different from the giant rod in the hands of the red-yellow essence ape. It felt similar, but in reality it was far from being on the same level. This heavenly arc, a heavenly treasure, had actually been merged. What a shock! Suffocation! How is it possible? Thousands of questions rose in his heart. Lin Feng's eyes flashed. He did not dare to believe it, but it was the truth. He would not be wrong. 3 heavenly treasures, the light pillar was one of them, and this heavenly ark was also one of them. Chi. The appearance of the heavenly ark not only attracted the attention of all the strong warriors, but also triggered the crazy fighting spirit of the red-yellow essence ape. At this moment, the blood-red eyes had already ignored the other wizard tribes. To him, the enemy that suddenly appeared in front of him was the real opponent. Clang blade. The sky shook and lightning shot out. This was a battle of heavenly treasures. The giant rod fell with a loud bang amidst the red-yellow essence ape's angry roar, with a clear domineering aura, and also a hint of unbridled madness and stubbornness. It fell crazily, mixed with rich mysteries of the rod technique. Its moves were endless, like a landslide of the mountains and waves of the sea. There was no way out, only the crazy fighting spirit of a face-to-face battle. 2 streaks of light instantly collided, releasing a thunderous battle light that shocked the heavens and the earth. Purring! This was the sound of heavenly treasures colliding. This was the first time the strongest warriors of the wizard and demon tribes clashed. Lin Feng's eyes flashed. The violent waves of air pushed him back. Fortunately, he was far away and did not suffer any injuries. Such a shocking collision of power, even the aftershocks were not pleasant. Just looking at the saint-level warriors in front of him, one could see that they were all blown away like kites with their strings cut. Fortunately, the wizard tribes were strong, so they did not suffer fatal injuries. Force with force. What a terrifying attack! Lin Feng thought. It was as if it wanted to destroy the heavens and the earth. The identity of the attacker was obvious. To be able to take heavenly treasures for his own use, to be able to fight against the red-yellow essence ape, and even maintain a certain advantage, in the entire wizard tribe, only the wizard emperor. He had finally appeared. Lin Feng's eyes flashed, looking at the sky. Whoosh, whoosh. He appeared as if he teleported, moving without any aura, as if his entire person was one with the space. That was a wizard tribe member of the Emperor River, with an arrogant aura that looked down on the world. Before the person arrived, the Sky Ark arrived first, and with the first attack, the red-yellow essence ape was caught off guard. His strength was hard to estimate. Pung! Pung! His heart beat rapidly. Lin Feng tightly pursed his lip. He could feel it very clearly. At this moment, all the power around him, all the warriors, no longer existed. Only this towering figure was left. In his eyes there was nothing else. Roar! The red-yellow essence ape, who was forced back with one attack, was furious. Its physique was quite strong, and with one look, it was not any weaker than the Wizard Emperor. The golden star source energy combined with its innate strength, and the power of the space level exploded. It waved the giant stick so tightly that it was impenetrable, and its mastery of the stick technique was heavenly. It was quite terrifying. Its mastery of the stick technique is probably comparable to Sacred Master Yunxiang's, Lin Feng thought. The Wizard Emperor was strong, but the red-yellow essence ape was not weak either. Not only did it have an extremely strong physique, but it also had an intimidating mastery of the stick technique. Moreover, its eyes seemed to be a little special, as if it was a combination of talent and aptitude. It was extremely terrifying. But, what a pity! Lin Feng's heart was cold. The red-yellow essence ape's stick technique was mixed with the way of space, but it had encountered the wizard tribe member of the Emperor River, and the Wizard Emperor at that. The wizard tribe of the Emperor River had the talent of space speed. His spatial ability is completely suppressed. Not only that, the Wizard Emperor's sky arc is completely merged, and his giant stick is just a weapon. Even if their fighting abilities are on par, but Lin Feng shook his head. To the red-yellow essence ape there were two great disadvantages. Especially the first one, as it was crucial to widen the gap between their abilities. If the red-yellow essence ape was stronger, it would not only merge the way of force and way of metal, but also the way of space. Then, it would not be afraid of the Wizard Emperor's space speed. However, it had only merged two types of power. In fact, it was already quite impressive to be able to merge the two types of power. At least, he could not do it. However, it had encountered the Wizard Emperor. Legend had it that he was the strongest man in the entire Dou-Ling world. He had once led the wizard tribe to a massacre during the Second Great Wizard Tribe War and killed all the demon tribe. The Wizard Emperor was the true leader of the wizard tribe. No matter whether it was in terms of strength or spirit, he was an irreplaceable existence. If the demon tribe wanted to unify the Dou-Ling world, they would have to step over his dead body. The sky arc appeared again, and the Wizard Emperor's eyes shone brightly, revealing his killing intent. The red-yellow essence ape is going to lose, Lin Feng said softly. Chapter 13:10. Who would win? This question appeared in the minds of all the experts present. The answer was soon revealed. Swoosh! 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 With the advantage of the sky arc, the Sorcerer Emperor had the upper hand and completely suppressed the red-yellow elite ape. Lin Feng's eyes were bright as he looked straight ahead. His heart was filled with shock. To be able to witness this battle with his own eyes was no less useful than fusing with a heaven-grade treasure. It was a great eye-opener. He also had a deeper understanding of the existence of the Sage King. Especially this battle, it was a contest between the two strongest experts of the Dou-Ling world. A true battle between the strongest. The Sorcerer Emperor should not be able to use the power of the sky arc, Lin Feng thought, but it was within his expectations. After all, the heavenly treasure had only been born for a short period of time. It was already quite impressive to be able to fuse with it and grasp the basic usage. The red-yellow elite ape could not even fuse with it. The gap between them was not small. Perhaps the giant rod was not inferior to the sky arc, but at this moment, the sky arc had the upper hand. It was either attacking directly or flying around like a frisbee. The Supreme River Sorcerer Tribe was ranked in the top 3 among the 12 sorcerer tribes. Among them, their speed was the strongest. With the sky arc, they were like a tiger that had grown wings. They were able to fully utilize their speed advantage. Using guerrilla warfare, they completely suppressed the red-yellow elite ape. However, very tenacious. Lin Feng thought to himself. He was very impressed by the red-yellow elite ape. Even though it was at a disadvantage, the red-yellow elite ape's fighting spirit was still high. It was not weak at all. It seemed to be at a disadvantage, but its innate strength kept blocking the attacks, defending and defending. Its strong physique was even stronger than his clone. It was quite terrifying. What a monster! Lin Feng's eyes were bright. At this moment, if he still could not guess the identity of the red-yellow elite ape, he would be too stupid. In the entire Douling world, the only one who could compete with the Sorcerer Emperor was probably the strongest expert of the Demon Clan, the champion of the hegemony competition, the new commander. But why is Senior Ox with the Demon Clan? He even came with the commander of the Demon Clan. What is their relationship? Lin Feng thought to himself. As he watched the battle closely, his heart was filled with questions. Actually, he did not wish for the Shaman Emperor to win this battle. Even if the Demon Clan was an enemy to the southern region and the entire human race, the Shaman Clan was also an enemy. If the demon race were to be defeated, they would definitely be eradicated from the Douling world. If the balance was lost, the Sorcerer tribe would dominate the Douling world. Regardless of whether it was the ancient race or the human race, even if they banded together, they would not be able to contend against the demon race. They would definitely follow in the footsteps of the demon race and grieve for the demon race. The arrogance of the Sorcerer tribe was even more ferocious than that of the ancient tribe. Ferociously, with the 100 poison-colored python leading the way, Lin Feng proceeded cautiously. Although the 100 poison rainbow python was not very fast, it was able to ensure its own safety as long as it attracted the firepower. Even if the strange energy here was 100 times stronger than outside, it did not mean that there were 100 times more illusions here. What was stronger was the strength of a single illusion, just like a Saint Realm Saint King Realm Saint Realm. Especially at this moment, if he was hit by the illusion, not only his physical body, but even his soul would be severely impacted. How brutal! However, he had no choice but to move forward. Since he had already entered, there was no turning back. I still can't find Brother Jean. With his strength, he should be trapped in the first few levels, but… Lin Feng pursed his lips and looked serious. Along the way, he did not see Jean Ji's figure and felt uneasy. Fortunately, Jean Ji had just merged with a heaven-grade treasure and should have some ability to protect himself. The only thing he could do now was to hope that he would be safe. If he turned back to look for him, it would undoubtedly be putting the cart before the horse and treating the symptoms but not the root cause. The scope was too large. It was better to find the array core as quickly as possible. Crack this array. This was the way to treat the root cause. Moving forward, layer after layer of the stone walls were cracked. The mirror surfaces overlapped and ran through every layer of the array. The core energy of the array was quite strong, but in terms of its mystery, this array was actually a little simple. After all, he had only left the ferocious grounds for a short period of time. Even if he wanted to set up a profound array, he would need enough time. However, this array seemed to have appeared out of thin air. One word, fast. A rush job is indeed simple. Lin Feng smiled. The principle of setting up the array was actually very simple. The most important thing was that the array power ran through the entire array and the setting of the array core. However, it was not easy to crack such a simple array. He was only able to make it here because of the 100 poison-colored python. Even if the array master, Shun, was here, he could only protect himself at most. If he wanted to find the array core and crack it completely, he would not have the strength to do so. Soon, after cracking another layer of the stone wall, Lin Feng's eyes became brighter. From just now, every time he went deeper into the array, his senses would deepen. That was an extremely strong energy aura, a shocking power. It was as if he was getting closer to the sky, step by step. This feeling was very tempting. What could it be? Lin Feng clenched his fists. Where the array core was, it must be something extraordinary. It was very slow but also very fast. It was like pulling silk out of a cocoon, advancing layer by layer. The profoundness and mystery of the array was being lifted bit by bit like a veil. Lin Feng was extremely patient. With the 100 poison-colored python leading the way, he slowly cracked the array's checkpoints. There were a total of 108 layers of stone walls. They were laid out with the simplest but extremely complicated layers and supplemented by illusions. At this moment, finally, it was announced that it was broken. Pa! Pa! Rumble! The array shook violently. The array power was constantly in chaos. The entire array seemed to be changing rapidly in an instant. The mournful ghosts dissipated like lonely souls. It was as if their souls had been scattered. The smell of blood seemed to spread in front of him. A hazy blood mist appeared, but it also dimmed in an instant until it disappeared. Change. Is this the array's change? Lin Feng said softly. It felt as if it was over. That feeling caused his heart to relax in an instant. It seemed like it was, but it also seemed like it was not. It was as if the array had been cracked. However, at this moment, there was an inexplicable and strange force driving the array's power. The illusions were more realistic and terrifying than before. However, they did not attack him. Instead, they appeared like a picture, treating him as a bystander. Deep. An unusually deep feeling went straight into his heart. It was as if he had entered this picture. He could completely feel the emotions of these lonely souls, as well as their reluctance to part with the world. There was also that deep hatred. It was as if a deep mark had been branded in his heart. Was it real? Many questions appeared in his mind. It was like a dream. He could no longer distinguish between reality and illusion. It was too strange. Lin Feng stood upright. He gritted his teeth and looked straight ahead. No. It was getting more and more wrong. This was an illusion. It was definitely an illusion. Pa! Closing his eyes, Lin Feng's face turned green and white. He entered a state of self-consciousness and maintained his original heart. If he was immersed in this illusion, he might not be able to come out again. His senses were too real. His ears, nose, mouth, and even his skin could feel the purgatory-like changes outside. It seemed like it was over. It seemed like the array had been cracked, however, in reality, he had brought himself into an illusory realm of one's heart. There was a saying in the art of war, attack when the enemy is unprepared. Ka! Lin Feng fiercely bit the tip of his tongue, and blood flowed out. That was the purest source of power. Not only was it painful, but it also contained the blood of his master's ancient divine beast, Lightning Shao. This was the best treasure to restrain illusions. Hua! A trace of coolness filled his body. Because the illusion caused his body to become hot, the restless feeling disappeared in an instant. In his meridians, a cool aura flowed. Lin Feng guarded his soul, resisting all illusions and firmly sealing himself. He had walked out. Pa! The star source energy flashed, forming a barrier outside his body. He seemed to be able to feel the collision with this strange energy. Whether it was intentional or not, this was not important. The important thing was that he had finally blocked the second illusion. Who? Lin Feng let out a long breath in his heart. He was lucky. He had almost been hit. Perhaps, if his main body was here, he would have been able to overcome it. However, the soul power of his avatar was a little weaker. If the first illusion was real but illusory, it was forceful. Then the second illusion is completely real and illusory, it was soft. If I am not careful, I will be trapped and unable to extricate myself. Lin Feng thought to himself. He had never cared about illusions. It could be said that this was one of his strongest abilities, including his main body's ability to cast illusions. However, reality proved that no attack could be underestimated. He could block it only because the attack was not strong enough. When the attack was strong enough, even the simplest attack might not be able to block it. Right now, it was the best example. It was no less than a life and death battle. Death was just a hair's breadth away. Time passed slowly. Every second was like torture. Although he had the blood of his master's ancient divine beast, Lightning Xiao, it did not mean that he was safe. Who knew if there would be a third illusion? Lin Feng was on guard. However, this time, he could finally heave a sigh of relief. Although the second illusion was powerful and could easily penetrate the enemy's body when they were unprepared, it was built on the foundation of the power of the array. The more attacks, the fiercer, and the shorter the time. In less than half an hour, the tremors of the array gradually stopped, and the space gradually became clear. Lin Feng was slightly moved. Sensing the changes in the array, it finally quieted down. He slowly sensed the surrounding environment. The first thing he felt was that the smell of blood had disappeared, and the noisy screams of the malicious ghosts had also disappeared. However, at this moment, his body felt inexplicably heavy, as if there was an extremely strong force that was suppressing him. But, suddenly opening his eyes, Lin Feng's eyes lit up. Everything around him had completely changed in this short period of time, and it was no longer what he had seen before. And that deep suppressive force came from above. Lin Feng suddenly raised his head. Instantly, his expression changed. What was that? Chapter 13:11. It was a tower-like flight of steps. It was majestic and magnificent, filled with a strong oppressive aura, as if it was an existence of the heavens, absolutely overflowing with dominance. Lin Feng looked up at the sky, his eyes burning. There were at least 100 steps, flashing with a unique feeling of power, forming a huge conical platform in all directions. The demonic energy that caused him to fall into the illusion had disappeared. It did not disappear, but was deeply hidden on this platform. The difference was that the previous external release was now restrained. However, this was only the foundation. What was truly eye-catching was the towering existence that was directly above the 100 steps of the platform. It was a shield-shaped light weapon. It had simple and unadorned patterns. The patterns were simple yet complex, emitting endless charm. It floated proudly above the steps, looking down on everyone like a high and mighty emperor. That pattern and that luster seemed to be familiar, and it gave off a familiar feeling. Bang! His head shook violently. Lin Feng was instantly stunned. It can't be right? Muttering, Lin Feng felt strangely suffocated. The feeling of the patterns and the brilliance of the light beam were very similar to the light beam he saw in the scorching land. Especially the majestic energy aura, although it was a little different, it also had a heaven-like oppressive aura, shocking people. If his original body was here at this moment, he would definitely feel his heart palpitating. Most likely, it was the last heavenly treasure. It actually appeared here. Bang! 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 His heart beat violently. Lin Feng pursed his lips tightly, feeling both nervous and deeply excited. What he lost at the swings, he gained at the swings. There was no doubt that there were heavenly treasures in the scorching land, but probably no one would have thought that a heavenly treasure would also be born in this ominous land. Just like the heavenly arc and light beam he saw before, there was no difference between the three heavenly treasures, and there was little difference in strength. No wonder this array appeared out of thin air. No wonder the array's power is so strong. The illusion is almost real, and it has the power of a saint king. So, the array's core is it? Lin Feng's eyes were burning. His body trembled slightly with incomparable excitement. No matter what kind of heaven-grade treasure he had obtained before, none of them could compare to this heavenly treasure that could drive even peak saint kings crazy. In such a hot place, he had wanted to rush forward and fight to the end several times, but in the end, he restrained himself. But here, he no longer needed to endure. This was his fate, his fortuitous encounter, and also a great opportunity for humanity. There was always a way out. Brother Jean, you're such a lucky star. Lin Feng smiled. If it wasn't for Jinji's insistence, she wouldn't have followed him to this barren land. In such a dangerous situation, he was even more persistent in staying here, waiting for an opportunity or an unexpected turn of events. In the end, he almost missed the opportunity. It was precisely because Jinji had fallen into the formation that he had forced his way into the formation. He did not expect that misfortune would be a blessing in disguise, and he would find the location of the heavenly treasure in the formation. It had to be said that this was fate. Even if the human race was in an unprecedented predicament, even if the southern region was isolated and helpless, if he could obtain this heavenly treasure and fuse with it, perhaps one day in the future, he could lead the southern region to rise in this land. Not to mention competing with the shamans and demons, at least. He had the power to protect himself. Good! Lin Feng's eyes were burning, and his excitement had already turned into strong confidence. The opportunity for humanity would depend on this. In a hot place, Shaman Emperor Jiang versus the new demon race commander. No one could have imagined that the most powerful existences of the shamans and demons would officially confront each other less than half a year after the war of the shamans and demons began. Face to face, neither of them was willing to give an inch. In the simplest and most shocking way, a one-on-one duel. There were no tricks, just a competition of pure strength. The surrounding powerhouses all held their breaths, and their hearts seemed to stop beating. This battle of the century would determine the momentum of the war of the shamans and demons, and would also determine the strength of the shamans and demons in the future. A battle between two peak saint-level powerhouses, a battle between two martial artists of the Douling world who were closest to starry sky powerhouses, resounded throughout the battlefield. Every move, every style, every attack and defense affected the hearts of the powerhouses. Everyone wanted to know who would have the last laugh. Judging from the situation, Dijiang, who could already use the sky arc, undoubtedly had the upper hand, riding the wind and breaking the waves, and attacking continuously. His speed was already terrifying, and with the increase of the sky arc, it reached an unimaginable level, far beyond the Saint King level. Space speed. Dijiang exerted his advantage to the extreme. And with this advantage, he also displayed his strength in other aspects. His powerful attacking ability, like mercury flowing on the ground, suppressed the red-yellow essence ape until he could not breathe. Everyone's eyes were focused on the Shaman Emperor Jiang, especially at this moment. More than half of the powerhouses of the shamans in the field naturally supported their emperor. Only Lin Feng's eyes never left the red-yellow essence ape. Whoosh! Whoosh! His eyes were bright, constantly changing colors. Clenching his teeth, he deeply copied and memorized every change in the red-yellow essence ape's movements, every mysterious display. Although it was very difficult, although it was far beyond the limits of his own ability, Lin Feng still did his best to hold on, and did not give up at all. This was a great opportunity. What a profound display of mysteries! What a strong fusion of Tao! Turns out that the gold Tao and the strength Tao can be combined like this. It's hard to imagine. The more he understood, the more shocked he was. It was not only the strength of the red-yellow essence ape, but also the strength of the Shaman Emperor. To be able to suppress the red-yellow essence ape, it was not only the contribution of the Sky Arc, but also the absolute control of his own strength. The Shaman Emperor is indeed the strongest man in the Douling world. Lin Feng said to himself, deeply impressed. Regardless of his character and means, just this strength, this fighting ability, this control of the situation, was enough for him to learn a lot. The red-yellow essence ape is bound to lose. Unless he can fully exert the power of the heavenly treasure, it's too difficult to turn the tables. Lin Feng said to himself. The Shaman Emperor had the right time and the right place. In his opinion, there was nothing to argue about this battle. The red-yellow essence ape's defeat could be said to be expected, and it was not shameful to lose to the Shaman Emperor. Millions of years ago, their ancestors, including the experts of the entire demon clan, were also defeated by this extremely powerful man. The Shaman Emperor had once led the 3 major human clans to suppress the demon clan in the Second War of the Shamans and Demons. He had severely injured the demon clan. It was the pride of the entire human clan to defeat the strong as the weak. No matter how unhappy he was with the Shaman tribe, his grandfather still admired the Shaman Emperor. He was a real hero. However, it was not easy for Di Jiang to win. The red-yellow essence ape was stronger than expected, and its fighting spirit was unyielding. It was like an unruly beast that could not be tamed at all. Boom, boom, boom. The red-yellow essence ape blocked the attacks again and again. That innate divine strength, coupled with the body that could be said to be the strongest in the entire Do Ling world, forced it to remain undefeated in this unfavorable situation. Although it was in a sorry state, it was far from its limit, and it was not at the stage of being defeated. The Shaman Emperor's eyes became colder and colder. At this moment, there were more and more experts of the Shaman tribe behind. They were all rushing over. Xian Ming, Hutu. Lin Feng glanced at them from the corner of his eyes. He was not surprised. Since the Shaman Emperor had arrived, how could the other Shaman kings not follow? Because what they were facing now was the new commander of the demon clan. If the Shaman Emperor was defeated, the Shaman tribe would definitely be defeated. But what would happen if the commander of the demon clan was defeated? The answer was obvious. Perhaps the demon clan was far more powerful than the Shaman tribe, so the defeat of the commander would not have a deep impact on the demon clan. But at least the blow to their morale would be complete. That was the strongest commander of the demon clan who had been selected through the commander competition. It could be said to be the symbol of the demon clan's current spiritual strength. How could they be defeated? Let's wait a little longer. Lin Feng's eyes were deep as he thought to himself. To him, it was not a big problem who won or lost, and it did not have much to do with him. On the contrary, the longer this battle lasted, the better. The longer it lasted, the more he could steal from the red-yellow essence ape. The red-yellow essence ape's strength was at the peak of the Sacred King level, and it was also the Emperor constellation of the Ursa Major constellation. He could learn a lot from the red-yellow essence ape. Not to mention other things, just the fact that it could perfectly combine the path of strength and the path of metal was the best template for him. The combination of the two paths was like the combination of his devouring fire and the rebirth fire. If it could be perfect, the power would increase by more than 10 times. On the other side, congratulations, big brother. You have another capable subordinate, Lam Tok Ti smiled. Ha 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 ha, not bad at all, Kuei Tu laughed loudly. His smile was full of satisfaction. His eyes were sparkling. At this moment, the huge Shibai corpse Wizard King stood behind him with a gray aura, as if he had come back from the dead. However, there was no sign of life. It's a pity that I can't unleash 100% of my strength, Lam Tok Ti nodded and said regretfully. There's no such thing as perfection in the world. Kuei Tu sneered. The Shibai corpse Wizard King's strength was originally at the Wizard King level, but now it's at least at the advanced level of the Sacred King level. It's not bad. That's true. Lam Tok Ti smiled faintly and looked into the distance, his eyes flashing. It seems that the battle has been going on for a while. Kuei Tu grunted softly, his eyes filled with viciousness. It's a pity that our strength is still lacking and not enough to fight for the heavenly treasure. Lam Tok Ti said calmly. It's okay. Even if we get the heavenly treasure, it's not necessarily a good thing. If we're not strong enough, we'll only make others jealous. As the saying goes, treasuring a jade ring becomes a crime. Lam Tok Ti looked at Kuei Tu and said with a smile, moreover, our gains are not small. Kuei Tu laughed heartily. This is all thanks to you, third brother, for coming up with strategies behind the scenes. As he spoke, Kuei Tu looked into the distance. Second brother sent a message that the Wizard King is currently fighting with the new commander of the Demon Clan. It's been quite some time. I wonder who will win? Lam Tok T's eyes flashed and he said softly, I believe that second brother will be able to handle it. Kuei Tu nodded. Chapter 13:12. In a hot place, there were more and more witches. Oh! Lin Feng's eyes lit up. At this moment, the battle between the Witch Emperor and the red-yellow ape was heated, and it could be said that it was hard to tell who would win. Although the Witch Emperor had the absolute advantage, it was not easy to kill the red-yellow ape. On the other hand, the red-yellow ape became more and more courageous. Its body was injured again and again, causing it to seem as if it had awakened and become even crazier. Fighting a bloody battle, it seemed to be stubborn, but in reality, it was not. The attacks are getting fiercer and fiercer. The level of the staff technique seems to be increasing in battle. Lin Feng thought to himself, feeling rather surprised. The use of the mysteries was more decisive and concise. The staff technique was also striving for perfection, and its fighting spirit was endless. It felt as if it was improving bit by bit in battle. It was quite unbelievable. What a strong comprehension ability! What a terrifying battle instinct! Lin Feng's heart trembled. However, he did not know that on the day of the commander competition, the red-yellow ape had also improved in battle after battle. The first time he fought with the bull demon, it could be said that he was completely defeated. However, the second time, he was able to turn the situation around bit by bit and finally defeated the bull demon. This was where his talent lay. To be able to become a commander of the demon clan, how could he be ordinary? But there's still no hope of turning the tables. Lin Feng turned to look at the Witch Emperor. This man, who had been expressionless from the beginning to the end, was completely unable to guess what he was thinking. However, intuition told him that he still had not used 100% of his strength. Even so, the red-yellow ape was completely suppressed by him, turning his advantage into the initiative of the battle. It was a very simple principle, but how many people could really do it? Including the red-yellow ape, at this moment, he could not display his true advantage. Facing the absolute speed of the Witch Emperor Jiang, he was completely restrained. No matter how much he improved in the battle, no matter how strong he became, the gap would still exist. Moreover, it had never changed. Unknowingly, the Witch Emperor has already gained the absolute upper hand, whether it is the situation or the consumption of star origin energy. Even in terms of physique, they are already on par. Lin Feng was secretly shocked. What kind of powerful battle control was this? Perfect and flawless. He did not give the red-yellow essence ape any chance at all. Like an insect nibbling away at its prey, he wore down its edge bit by bit and did not swallow it whole like a snake. Instead, he subtly influenced the red-yellow essence ape to think that it had a chance of winning, but in reality, that was not the case. He was merely exhausting them, slowly exhausting the red-yellow ape's strength. The possibility of it escaping slowly decreased, like a net, bit by bit, bit by bit. What a terrifying person! Lin Feng was secretly trembling. As an outsider, he had only noticed it now. Needless to say, the red-yellow essence ape, who was in the middle of the situation, seemed to have entered the situation but did not know. He actually wants to kill the demonic beast commander in one fell swoop and deal a heavy blow to the morale of the demonic beasts. Lin Feng looked at Di Jiang. At this moment, he finally felt a sense of greatness. This man was just as his grandfather had said. He was a true hero, the strongest person in the Dou Ling world. Not only was he ambitious, but he was also capable. In the Second Great War of the Shamans and Demons, he had decided the outcome in one fell swoop. It was definitely not a fluke for the weak to defeat the strong. Even if it happened again, he would still be the final winner. Because he was the strongest general on the battlefield. Ferociously, after going through 2 layers of illusions, Lin Feng finally arrived at the heart of the formation. However, he encountered a new test. Steps. Lin Feng's gaze was deep. 108 steps. He had clearly counted them 3 times. If it was a normal number, perhaps he would not care so much. However, these 108 steps were exactly the same as the stone wall formation in the first layer of heaven. If he said that there was nothing in common or similar between them, he would be lying to himself. How could there be such a coincidence? Moreover, these layers of pressure were extremely shocking. To cross these 108 steps to reach the heart of the formation, to reach the top where the heavenly treasure was definitely not an easy task. But it was worth a gamble. There were no strong people here. It could be said that it was his own fate and opportunity. Whether he succeeded or not was not affected by the outside world. Everything depended on his own ability. But, clenching his fist, Lin Feng's gaze was bright. This was the best opportunity. Huff, inhale, adjusting his breathing, Lin Feng's fighting spirit was high. At this moment, there were no distractions in his mind. With a bright light in his eyes, he stepped onto the steps in a flash. It was an indescribable feeling. It was as if he had stepped into another dimension. The feeling of his body and the feeling of his aura had completely changed. The sky became hazy and white. He felt as if he was floating above the ground. Accompanied by a dazzling brilliance, his surroundings suddenly changed. Pa! 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 Countless figures fell down, not far from him. There was no time to react. It was as if they had appeared out of thin air, or as if they had drilled out from the ground. There were even some illusions that he did not know how they appeared, circling around him. It was extremely strange. Fast. Extremely fast, changing in an instant. This is... Lin Feng's eyes were burning. His heart's perception was extremely clear. He could completely sense the aura of the figures. They were all at the peak of the martial saint level, just like him. At this moment, they did not attack after appearing. Instead, they kept changing their positions. As more and more figures appeared, the surrounding pressure also increased. Whoosh, whoosh. The wind and crane sounded in his ears. His surroundings were filled with layers of illusions. He could no longer see any figures. It was as if he had fallen into a formation. This was only a change in an instant, but it had already completed the formation. So fast. Lin Feng was secretly shocked. Just like the formation outside, it was completed in the blink of an eye. At this moment it was the same. While he was thinking, suddenly, whoosh! A silver figure appeared behind him without warning. Lin Feng's body jerked to the side, and the cold blade light almost brushed past him. The color of the astral source energy was extremely rich, with a strong wind intent. Dodging to the extreme, Lin Feng did not show any mercy. Thunder rumbled in his right hand, and in an instant, he blasted out. Bang! The force exploded. A pure counterattack directly blasted the silver figure into pieces. Crack! Like smoke and dust, it turned into nothingness and disappeared in front of him. However, there was no change in his surroundings at all. Layers of light fog, he was still deep in the formation. What's going on? A question arose in Lin Feng's mind. What was going on with this silver figure that had appeared out of nowhere? He was still full of doubts. Behind him, intense fireballs were already flying over, and they were like a string of meteors. His eyes flashing, Lin Feng dodged in an instant. However, this string of fireballs was not only fierce, but also came wave after wave, covering an extremely large area. Clang! Lightning flashed, and the amethyst spear suddenly appeared. Unable to dodge anymore, Lin Feng's eyes flashed. Following the flash of golden light, the thunder slaughter armor covered his body again. The spear intent rushed straight into his heart. What was there to be afraid of in a battle? Bang! Bang! Purely using his body to defend, the lightning flashed. He stepped out with familiar footsteps and blasted towards the fire spirit master who was sneak attacking him from behind. Right in front of him, but he was far away. Just when he thought he was about to stab him, there was almost no warning. Chi! An arrow flashing with cold light flew out from the side. Bang! There was no way to dodge at all. Lin Feng's expression changed. The starlight of the Thunder Slaughter armor shone, the transfer of power, and the protection of the star source power barely blocked the arrow, only breaking the defense. At this moment, the flame light rumbled again, but it was not a string of fireballs. Instead, it was a meteor shower in the sky. Damn it! Lin Feng gritted his teeth. Just as he was about to rush forward, another 2 arrows flew out silently from the dark, and the angle was unusually tricky. Hua! Attacking from the side, Lin Feng changed his path. At this moment, he was truly trapped in the array. Wave after wave, the attacks did not stop. Just like the illusion outside, there was no end at all. Every time he killed a silver figure, another enemy would appear, and the number was constantly increasing, and the types were all different. A huge test. Even if these silver figures were only at the peak of the saint level, their coordination and ability could not be underestimated. 1 + 1 was far greater than 2. And now it was not as simple as 1 + 1. Bang! 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 Lin Feng gritted his teeth. At this moment, he was trapped in 4 layers of attacks, completely under the control of others. 3 of the 4 figures attacked and 1 defended, completely restricting him. A war god, a martial god, a wood spirit master, and a heavenly soul master. He had never thought that with the strength of his doppelgangers, he would be restricted by warriors at the peak of the saint level. But now it had really happened. Moreover, the ones restricting him were human warriors. Clang! Clang! The purple crystal spear shone brightly, and the golden star source power was invincible. However, the war god holding the giant shield forcibly raised his defense, barely resisting. Green light appeared on the shield from time to time, but it was the enhancement of the wood spirit master, continuously strengthening the defense. At this moment, the war god's attacks were ghostly and tricky, sometimes appearing behind the giant shield, and sometimes appearing behind him. Fighting a guerrilla battle without being greedy, the tactic was quite brilliant. However, when he wanted to attack him, the wood spirit master's control skills would appear, constantly interfering. The giant shield expert would also stick to him, forcing the war god to retreat to the side. The most terrifying one was the heavenly soul master, who would appear from time to attack him. Although he attacked the least, every time, it happened at the most critical moment. Like a poisonous snake hiding in the dark, it was extremely terrifying. Or, it was the moment when he was about to counterattack. Or, it was the moment when he defended, or even the beginning of the serious injury to his origin. Boom! Lin Feng was on the verge of collapsing. His face was pale, but the more he fought, the more suppressed he was. Chi! The purple crystal spear in his hand had already unleashed all its power, using the last bit of its strength to kill the wood spirit master. Then, under the interference of the war god, he severely injured the war god and finally broke through his defense. However, at that moment, his mind buzzed, and the fighting spirit that he had endured until the last moment finally collapsed. Chi! A cold light slashed across his neck. Chi! Another cold light pierced through his chest, and accompanying it was, bang! Soul's direct attack. A crushing defeat. Chapter 13:13. A crushing defeat. Bang! As if falling from the stairs, Lin Feng's injuries were not light. His face was pale, and his consciousness was a little blurry. However, he gritted his teeth. Lin Feng supported his tired body and did not fall. He looked down at his chest and touched his neck. These two fatal injuries were like a dream, as if they had never happened. However, he remembered clearly. My injuries. Lin Feng's eyes were bright, and his heart was heavy. His injuries were very serious. Including the consumption of the star origin power at this moment, it was also quite large. What happened when he stepped on the stairs was not a dream, nor was it an illusion. It was a real battle, a competition, except the final killing move. It seems to be just a test. It doesn't want to take people's lives. Lin Feng nodded slowly. His eyes flashed, and he seemed to understand something. The battle just now was still fresh in his memory. There was no doubt about the injuries on his body. If it was an ownerless array, he was afraid that the two killing moves just now would have killed him. However, the fact that he had survived proved one thing. The backbone of this formation, the light artifact that stood high up in the sky, was not cruel and heartless. It was an existence with spiritual consciousness. How could a heavenly treasure be an ordinary item? Or it is where the core of the array is. Or perhaps it's a difficult problem and test for the challenger. If I want to climb these 108 stairs and enter the true core of the array, the location of the light weapon, it seems that I have to pass this hurdle. Lin Feng's eyes were bright. He raised his head and looked at the light weapon with extreme energy. It was where the heavenly treasure was. Like an emperor overlooking everything, there was a great mystery. The contact of his heart seemed to be telling him, if you have the ability, come up. I don't believe it. Lin Feng's eyes flashed and he clenched his fists. The desire for the heavenly treasure, the persistence for victory, and the unwillingness to admit defeat in the depths of his heart twisted. If he was defeated by a Saint King-level expert, he would be convinced. But to be defeated by these Saint-level experts, he was extremely unwilling. Moreover, they were only human experts. 27. Lin Feng pursed his lips as he recalled. Including the wood spirit master that he killed in the end, he had killed 27 silver figures. Although he didn't know how many silver figures there were, it was clear that there were far more than 27 of them. Moreover, from the first to the second, the number slowly increased. As more and more silver figures appeared at the same time, the difficulty increased. It was not easy to take a step forward. But wouldn't it be wonderful if he treated this as a practice for actual combat? There was no burden and there was no pressure. At this moment, the pure increase in strength and the sublimation of combat power would only be beneficial to the Avatar. As long as he didn't die, with the Avatar's powerful physique and the undying body of the seven souls as one, it would only take an instant for him to recover. Injuries were nothing. Hua! Closing his eyes, Lin Feng sat down cross-legged. His body exuded a faint light as he merged with the heavens and earth. With the support of the array, his comprehension of the stars became even clearer, and the recovery rate of his star source energy rapidly increased. As for his body, he didn't need to worry about it at all. Before his astral source energy was fully recovered, he would be able to return to his peak. Soon, he would be as lively as a dragon and lively as a tiger. Another challenge. In a hot place, the red-yellow essence ape was gradually weakening. Even if he was exceptionally talented, and the more he fought, the more courageous he became. However, which Emperor Jiang was like a natural large net. No matter how the red-yellow essence ape jumped, he was trapped in the net, and his fighting spirit and strength were worn away little by little. At this moment, the red-yellow essence ape was seriously injured, and because of the large amount of blood loss, he was somewhat powerless. Defeat is set. Lin Feng's eyes were deep. Every attack of the red-yellow essence ape went straight into his heart, and was still fresh in his memory. At this moment, no matter if it was the use of his mysteries, the strength of his staff technique, or even the condition of his body, except for which Emperor Jiang, no one knew better than him. Just by looking at his speed that had dropped by 20%, one could tell that he was powerless. The previous injury had stimulated his beastly nature, causing it to erupt. However, the heavens were fair. With explosive power, there would also be sequelae after the eruption. Right now, it was flowing rapidly. Which emperor is too strong? Lin Feng sighed. In his view, the red-yellow essence ape was already strong enough. With his strength, killing him was just a snap of his fingers. But Di Jiang was even more terrifying. Without any effort, he won this battle that should have been evenly matched. The extremely powerful red-yellow essence ape, the new commander of the demon clan, had impressive talent, but he could not even unleash his true strength under Di Jiang's hands. There was a qualitative difference. Run, Lin Feng said softly. That was what he really wanted to say to the red-yellow essence ape. However, he could not say it. Compared to the Witch Emperor, the red-yellow essence ape was too innocent. It was completely trapped in a trap that the Witch Emperor had meticulously set up. From the beginning until now, there was no real resistance. Perhaps even this heavenly treasure, Light Pillar, was intentionally allowed to be obtained by the Shaman Emperor. If we don't run now, we won't have a chance. Lin Feng's eyes lit up and his heart sank. If the red-yellow essence ape was defeated, it would not benefit the southern region at all. The Witch Clan was powerful, and with a leader like the Witch Emperor, the demon clan's morale would be low. Without the right time and place, they would be defeated like a landslide. At that time, the southern region would be the next target of the Witch Clan. However, he could not move or shout. Otherwise, he would be the one who died. What should he do? He could only rely on the will of the heavens. There were many things that he could not do even if he wanted to. Moreover, there was no need for him to risk his life for the demon clan that he did not know. He would deal with whatever came his way. The true situation was still unknown. How could a mortal guess the changes in the heavens? Just as he was thinking, suddenly, Lin Feng was slightly surprised. The experts of the Witch Clan who were watching just now were slowly disappearing. He looked around in surprise. At that moment, the Witch Clan was spreading out bit by bit and spreading out in all directions. They were about to capture the heavily injured red-yellow essence ape like a turtle in a jar. Lin Feng was stunned. It can't be? Did they not have confidence in Witch Emperor Jiang, or did they not see the current situation? Moreover, what other intentions did they have? They were too naive to surround and annihilate the demon clan's commander. This? Lin Feng frowned, but his eyes flickered. He suddenly looked at Witch Emperor Jiang. At that moment, his fluctuating face finally changed for the first time. However, it was not happiness or joy. Instead, it was anger that was hidden deep in his heart. This move was simply superfluous. It was baffling. In an instant, roar! The red-yellow essence ape roared endlessly, its hair standing on end. Its entire body was shining with golden light. Its entire body seemed to have changed completely in an instant. It was extremely crazy. Lin Feng was shocked. His eyes lit up completely. He felt the surging aura of the red-yellow essence ape and his heart raced. As expected, the Witch Emperor noticed the situation. How could the red-yellow essence ape not notice it? It was deeply stimulating. It had completely awakened it. At that moment, if the red-yellow essence ape still did not understand what the Witch Emperor was planning, then he would be a demon clan's commander in vain. Bang! 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 The golden light was completely illuminated. The red-yellow essence ape's eyes flashed with a blood-red light. Its surging aura seemed to have poured out all the power hidden in its body at that moment. It was abnormally violent. Boom! Rumble! The earth seemed to be shaking. Lin Feng's eyes flashed. He quickly retreated and a faint smile appeared on his face. The Witch Emperor's plan had been broken. The carefully arranged plan was flawless. Who would have thought that it was not broken by the red-yellow essence ape, but by the powerhouses of the witch tribe from the inside? He did not know if there were any mysteries in this, nor was he interested in knowing. Most importantly, the possibility of the Witch Emperor wanting to keep the red-yellow essence ape alive was extremely small. Boom! The sky roared. The madness of the red-yellow essence ape caused the powerhouses of the witch tribe to be aghast. No one would have thought that the heavily injured red-yellow essence ape still had such strength. The terrifying golden energy under the explosion of the Emperor's aura made people tremble in fear. The red-yellow essence ape kept roaring. The crazy golden light rapidly exploded and exploded again. It was like a golden balloon wildly expanding. No one dared to take a step closer. Chi! The heavenly arc silently appeared again, cutting through the void. However, at that moment, a giant rod with a dense blood-red light appeared horizontally. It collided with the heavenly arc with a sonorous sound. It was like Mars colliding with the Earth. The terrifying energy was dazzling. Pung! Pung! Dong! The sky shook and the earth shook as if the end of the world was coming. At that moment, which Emperor Jiang finally exploded. He launched an extremely crazy attack in a futile attempt to affect the red-yellow essence ape's movement. However, frontal attacks were not his forte. He could not compare to the red-yellow essence ape's explosive power in a head-on clash. The heavenly treasure and the heavenly arc attack could only affect the red-yellow essence ape's movement. However, he could not stop it. Boom! Boom! The other powerhouses of the witch tribe finally came back to their senses. One after another, attacks exploded. The intense rumbling of the battlefield was so intense that not a single person could be seen. It was almost crazy. However, the golden light still existed. It was like the stars in the sky. No matter how they attacked, it still flashed with a bright luster. What a pity! Lin Feng's eyes flashed. Looking at the intense battle scene, there was a yearning in his heart. He did not know when he would be able to truly participate in a battle of this level and have the power to compete with Witch Emperor Jiang and the red-yellow essence ape. He was very tempted. The outcome was set. When a peak saint-level powerhouse was determined to escape, if one wanted to stop him, one had to have a much stronger power. However, Witch Emperor Jiang did not have that. Pung! Light shot out in all directions like the destruction of stars. Mad roars and hysterical shouts could be heard in his ears. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. He looked at the center of the battlefield. The golden light slowly dissipated. The surging energy spread out from the center of the battlefield. The earth gradually returned to its calm state. It was not that the red-yellow essence ape was killed. It had already disappeared. To be precise, it should be escaped. Which Emperor Jiang's face was gloomy. Ah! He roared furiously. At that moment, even if he was an ambitious person, he could not bear the depression in his heart. It was all for naught. Chapter 13-14. A battle of the pinnacle had come to an end. The onlookers were shocked by the power of Witch Emperor Jiang, but they also felt pity for the new commander of the demon clan. Just a little bit more. Severely injuring the new commander of the demon clan was already shocking enough. Just a little bit more and Witch Emperor Di Jiang could have secured victory and killed the new commander of the demon clan, establishing the final victory of the war of the Witch Demon clan. In the starry sky, the star of the Witch clan shone brightly. On the contrary, the star of the Demon clan, which had always shone the brightest, was dim, as if its light had been absorbed. However, a centipede would not fall over even if it died. No matter how dim the star of the Demon clan was, it was still much brighter than the star of the Human clan. It was even comparable to the new star of the Ancient clan. The new star of the Ancient clan was also much dimmer. 3 points in a line, the 3 stars of the Human clan. Only the star of the Witch clan, which was at the highest point in the sky, shone brightly. It was like a leader who controlled the entire starry sky. The light of the stars seemed to indicate that the witch clan's star luck was quite good and welcomed an excellent start. What a pity! Lin Feng thought to himself. If the experts of the witch clan had appeared a little later, when Witch Emperor Jiang had secured victory, he would have completely trapped the red-yellow essence ape and sent it into the bottomless abyss. The demon clan would have suffered great losses, and Witch Emperor Jiang would no longer have any opponents. The balance of the war of the Witch Demon clan would tilt towards the Witch clan. However, at this moment, everything returned to the unknown. The defeat of the red-yellow essence ape would at most affect the morale of the demon clan, but it would not tilt the balance of the war of the Witch Demon clan too much. He was born with divine strength and had the strongest physique in the Douling world. In the future, he would definitely be able to recover and make a comeback. With the red-yellow essence ape's ability and potential, it was still unknown whether Witch Emperor Jiang could defeat him again, because the difference in strength between them was not as big as imagined. Firstly, the advantage of the heavenly treasure. Lin Feng's eyes brightened. The Witch Emperor could be said to have fused with the heavenly arc, but the red-yellow essence ape did not. This was a huge disadvantage. Secondly, the use of their abilities. In Lin Feng's mind, he had benefited a lot from this battle. He had learned a lot from the red-yellow ape. In this battle, the red-yellow elite ape didn't display the strength it should have, and instead, it was completely restrained by the Shaman Emperor Jiang's absolute speed and the heavenly arc. In the end, when Witch Emperor Jiang blocked the red-yellow essence ape from leaving, one could see the clues. Sorcerer Emperor Jiang couldn't stop it at all. In terms of face-to-face attacks, the red-yellow essence ape was even stronger. Most importantly, Lin Feng's expression was solemn. Sorcerer Emperor Jiang has already unleashed his potential to the extreme. His strength has reached its peak. But the red-yellow ape is different. He still has limitless potential. His body, his strength, and the use of his secrets. Too many. The red-yellow essence ape possessed talent and aptitude that surpassed Sorcerer Emperor Jiang. Especially the Tao of Space in this battle, the red-yellow ape was completely restricted by the Witch Emperor Jiang. If the red-yellow ape could perfectly combine the Tao of Space, Tao of Gold and Tao of Strength, and unleash the true power of the 5 Emperor constellations, then today's situation would be reversed. Really, what a pity! Lin Feng looked at the extremely angry shaman Emperor Jiang and thought to himself. However, he was quite happy in his heart. Fiercely, the battle between the two strongest liches finally came to an end. 3 heavenly treasures. 2 of them had fallen to the ground, each with their own owner. Only at this moment, on the 108 steps, that mysterious and powerful light weapon was still as arrogant as a princess. It didn't allow anyone or anything to touch it. There was a chance. Fate, of course, existed too. But whether or not he could grasp it, whether or not he could defeat himself, was another matter. Huff, huff, long breaths. Lin Feng constantly adjusted his body, absorbing and recovering his star origin power. Even though in the formation, his connection with the constellations had greatly increased. Normal warriors would not be able to recover all their star origin power in such a short period of time. But Lin Feng was different. Hua! Hua! Every inch of his skin, every cell in his body was absorbing the star origin power, and not just absorbing and refining it in one place. This was the most obvious change in his body after the 7 souls merged into one. Even if his body had not reached the level of a starry sky warrior, his various abilities were not limited. There was no need to talk about the strength of his body and the shocking recovery ability. Unless a destructive force came, the possibility of damaging this undying body was too small. And the recovery speed of the star origin power was dozens or even hundreds of times faster. In a short period of time, not only did his doppelganger recover, it even returned to its peak state. But he opened his eyes, shining brightly. Lin Feng slowly stood up and looked forward, not too impatient. These 108 steps were obviously not simple and contained extreme mysteries. The saint-level array he had entered just now was not an illusion, but a real one. The silver figures all had different specialties. When they worked together, they were completely new and their strength increased greatly. Otherwise, he would not have suffered such a crushing defeat. This should be an array within an array. Lin Feng thought to himself. An array within an array could be said to be an extremely mysterious array. For example, he had seen it that day in the Sparrow King prison, and he had obtained the unknown heaven-rank treasure, fire-setting pearl. It's slightly different. Strictly speaking, this array within an array can't be considered to be a fusion with the outer array. It's tightly intertwined, and more like an additional existence. However, because of the integration of array power, its power is extremely great. The same array within an array had different type. To break it, the method was different. I don't know if there's a simple way to break this array within an array, but at least there's a normal path. Lin Feng nodded. His eyes were burning and he made up his mind. He was not affected by the first failure. His figure flashed, and he stepped onto the steps again. Challenge again. The normal path could be said to be simple, but it could also be said to be complicated. Simply put, if one had enough strength to kill all the saint-level experts in their way, the array would automatically break. Simply speaking, in order to complete this difficult mission, one must possess an extremely powerful strength to support it. It was like an invisible barrier that separated the two extremes. If one was strong enough, it would be simple. If one was not strong enough, it would be complicated. Moreover, it was very complicated. Puff. Spitting out blood, Lin Feng's eyes were sharp and cold. The amethyst spear in his hand pierced through a silver figure, but his body was bound by a spiral of energy. He had no time to react at all. A patch of earth condensed under his feet, piling up layer by layer like a stone castle, completely binding him. At this moment, chi, rays of golden light flashed, and sharp flying daggers shot over. They were astonishingly fast and extremely shiny, and their coordination was flawless. 2 heavenly soul masters and an earth spirit master instantly destroyed all of Lin Feng's defenses. He gritted his teeth, unwilling to admit defeat. However, his chest was instantly riddled with holes, and his consciousness blurred. Even though he had an unyielding will to fight, he could no longer continue. Bang! Lin Feng fell to the ground. Defeated again, Lin Feng fell from the steps and landed heavily on the ground. His injuries were shocking. Apart from the fatal flying dagger, the other flying daggers were all injured, and could be said to be more serious than before. However, the most serious injury was not his body, but his heart. He had been defeated again and again in a short period of time. This was a huge blow to any warrior. He was not tortured to death by an expert, but by an existence of the same level, and he was defeated by an even weaker warrior. However, no change could be seen in Lin Feng's expression. His face was slightly pale and he looked listless. However, this was not his first failure, and he was very experienced. Instantly, Lin Feng sat cross-legged, recovering his injuries and astral source energy. His movements were very skilled and decisive, and it was clear that Lin Feng's heart was not shaken at all. 15 minutes later, Lin Feng's body flashed with a golden light, and he quickly recovered. Actually, the injuries on his body were healed in less than 15 minutes, even if they were more serious than the last time. It was mainly the recovery of astral source energy. Even if all the cells in his body absorbed and refined it, he was still at the peak of the saint level, and his astral source energy would not recover that quickly. However, it was already shocking enough. Huff! Lin Feng exhaled a mouthful of turbid air, opened his eyes, and stood up. He pursed his lips and looked at the 108th step. He already had a new understanding and feeling. This new discovery was very important. Last time, I fell from the 28th step, and this time, I fell from the 32nd step. Lin Feng's eyes burned. The first time, he killed 27 silver figures and then lost. However, this time, he killed 31 silver figures and finally lost. The mystery was self-evident. In other words, there are a total of 108 silver figures? Lin Feng exclaimed. It was far more difficult than he had imagined. With the experience of the last defeat, he had thought of many ways to recover his astral source energy. In the end, he did not make the same mistake and successfully passed the previous stage. However, it was not long before he was in big trouble again. These silver figures that looked like human experts were too coordinated. The combination of War God and Martial God and Celestial Spirit Master and Celestial Soul Master, all kinds of cooperation were perfect. It was far more than 1 + 1 was greater than 2. To be able to make him, who was at the mid-level of the Saint King realm, lose again and again, this was obviously not something that could be summed up by the word luck. These silver figures were really strong. Their individual strength was not comparable to the ancient race and the sorcerer race of the same level, but when they worked together, it was completely different. Wait. These silver figures are all human experts, and they are only at the peak of the saint level, but they can cooperate to have the strength of a Saint King. Doesn't that mean that the human experts can actually compete with the ancient race and the sorcerer race? Lin Feng was instantly stunned. This idea kept circling in his mind, and it became more and more profound. It was not a fantasy, but completely feasible. Chapter 13-15. He cared too much. He cared too much about the array itself, as well as the heavenly treasure at the heart of the array. He neglected other things. Last time, he had reached the 32nd step and defeated 31 silver figures, which were 31 human powerhouses of different type. There weren't any outstanding existences like the 12 king constellations, they were all ordinary human experts that couldn't be any more ordinary. However, they were able to defeat him time and time again. Of course, there were other factors, such as the accumulation of injuries and the consumption of astral energy, but it was undeniable that these powerful humans were really strong. It was not the strength of an individual, but the strength of their cooperation. If it was a one-on-one battle, none of the silver figures could compare to a powerful sorcerer of the same level, let alone him. However, if they were in a group of 2, they could compete with 2 powerful sorcerers of the same level. If they were in a group of 3, they could defeat 3 powerful sorcerers of the same level, or even surpass their level. As for a group of 4, even he had fallen into their hands, and twice at that. Each time, it was a completely different group. Every sorcerer is a natural heavenly martial artist. And every ancient is a heavenly god who has inherited the blood of mythical beasts. Humans may seem insignificant and have mediocre talents, but they are the only ones who can cultivate to both heavenly martial artist and heavenly god. His eyes were bright. Lin Feng nodded slowly. After this battle, the powerful humans had a different status in his heart. With so many possibilities, it meant that the powerful humans had great potential that had yet to be tapped. If the 3 major human clans had the same bloodline and were all incarnations of Pangu, then why couldn't the powerful humans reach the domain realm that the sorcerer and ancient could? Humans could also produce powerful people with great talent. For example, king constellations like Jinji and Jixin. Ordinary constellations like his disciple Qin Ro and his brother Wan Macho. Not to mention Qian Lian Huang, who might not even be comparable to the geniuses of the sorcerer and ancient. Didn't he also have half of the human bloodline? In terms of talent, humans are not as good as the sorcerer and ancient. But humans have their own advantages. Their ability to reproduce is strong, and they have unlimited possibilities. Their adaptability is amazing. If we can discover the cooperation system, we can further expand the advantages of the human race. His imagination roamed and his heart palpitated. Lin Feng's eyes burned, but the more he thought about it, the more excited he became. Compared to that, whether or not he could obtain the heavenly treasure didn't seem that important at this moment. Now that he had shouldered the heavy responsibility of protecting the human race, he would naturally do his best to fulfill it, not only for his family but also for his promise. He would also do it for them, who shed the same blood as he did. In his heart, he had always thought that he was a part of the human race. It had been deeply ingrained in him since he was young. 108 steps. Lin Feng nodded. The first time, I reached the 28th floor. The second time, I reached the 32nd floor. The difficulty of the steps increases in order. Even if I try a third time, I won't gain any benefit. Perhaps the results will be better than the second time, but the improvement will be limited. It is impossible to have a qualitative breakthrough in a short period of time. This is not realistic. As he pondered, Lin Feng's expression turned serious. There was no need to deceive oneself and others. It's too difficult to reach the 108th floor. The possibility is extremely slim. I reckon that by the time I'm almost done climbing, the secret here will have already been discovered. Lin Feng was clear. Perhaps this was where the danger zone was. Perhaps everyone was attracted by the meteor treasure. However, this was the Magi realm after all. No news or information could escape the eyes of the Magi. Even if no Magi experts passed by for a day or two, even if no neutral experts passed by for 8 to 10 days, what would happen after a month or two? Paper could not wrap up the fire. As for himself, the chances of breaking through the restrictions here in 1 or 2 months were too small. Instead of that, he might as well choose the best option, just like how he chose to watch from the sidelines in a popular place. Sometimes, if you do something with too much anticipation, you will fail at the last step. Sometimes, if you don't intend to, you might succeed. I can experience the moment between life and death, but I don't have to really die. This is actually a pretty good place to train. It's especially suitable for increasing one's combat strength. Moreover, there are so many different types of sparring partners. Coupled with the fact that their strength is similar, it's best to practice and comprehend spear technique. Moreover, if I can comprehend Cloud's rise, my strength will definitely increase greatly. I might even be able to climb a few more levels. Smiling slightly, Lin Feng was deep in thought. He had already made a decision. Since the goal was too far and too big, he might as well take it one step at a time. As he practiced his spear, he would familiarize himself with the cooperation of various human experts. At that time, he would pass it to Yushun and let him make arrangements. It would definitely greatly increase the strength of the saints in the southern region. There would be countless cooperating saints with the strength of a saint king. Let's begin, one by one. I'll try to understand as much as possible. Lin Feng's eyes were bright. With his mind set, he instantly stepped into it. This time there was no pressure. In a popular place, the dust settled. Magi Emperor Zhang's expression was ugly. He left without saying a word. The powerhouses of the sorcerer tribe looked at each other in dismay. For a moment, none of them knew what to do. As the other neutral experts left, the experts of the sorcerer tribe also chose to leave. Their expressions were solemn. It was impossible to tell that Magi Emperor Jiang had just defeated the demon commander and boosted their morale. Magi Emperor is really angry. Lin Feng's eyes flashed. Not only him, but everyone knew. Although Magi Emperor did not say a word, his aura fluctuated and his gloomy expression showed that his heart was rumbling like thunder. However, he obviously could not handle it. It seems that not only the human tribe will fight among themselves, The sorcerer tribe is the same. Lin Feng smiled faintly. After experiencing so much, how could he not see it? The experts of the sorcerer tribe did not appear earlier or later. They waited until the red-yellow essence ape was about to be completely defeated, and had no strength to reverse the situation. They appeared to wake the red-yellow essence ape up. There must be someone behind this. However, without evidence and with the intention of goodwill, Magi Emperor Jiang Yunu could not act. Furthermore, seeing how that person can order the other experts of the sorcerer tribe and how even Magi Emperor Jiang is wary of him, I know that he has great power in the sorcerer tribe and is not to be trifled with. Otherwise, how could Magi Emperor Jiang swallow his anger and leave with a cold face? The sorcerer tribe, the internal strife between the factions seems to be very serious. Lin Feng's eyes flashed. In his mind, a gloomy, ghostly face appeared. Candle Dragon. Just as the experts of the sorcerer tribe were fighting with Gu Xing for the heavenly treasure, only he stood at the side and watched coldly. He had no intention of participating at all. With his strength stronger than the corpse wizard king, there was no reason for him not to want a share of the loot. It would be even more unreasonable if he was afraid or cautious. Since he was here, why would he be afraid? He was the Magi King. Furthermore, Lin Feng deduced in his mind. Suddenly, he smiled and shook his head. What does it have to do with me? I don't care if they fight or not. The messier the fight, the better. That way, the Magi Emperor will have a headache and lose sight of one thing. I don't want the battle with the demon clan to become one-sided. In today's battle, although the commander of the demon clan escaped in the end and the effect was not 100%, it was definitely 50%. It was like two armies fighting on the battlefield. However, the general of the demon clan was defeated in a one-on-one battle and was severely injured. To the demon clan, this was not only a huge blow to their morale, it was also a bolt from the blue. If the Magi Emperor was not stupid, he would definitely make good use of this advantage. In addition, the demon clan was tired and the wizard tribe had the geographical advantage, severely injured the demon clan. Right now, it was a great opportunity for the wizard tribe to counterattack, especially since Magi Emperor Jiang was not injured. In addition, he had a preliminary understanding of the heavenly treasure. If he could lead the army and lead the troops, he would definitely be able to defeat the demon clan and leave no survivors. Other than the red-yellow essence ape, who else in the demon clan could be a match for Magi Emperor Jiang? Bull Demon. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. However, he suddenly remembered that his savior, Senior Bull, came together with the red-yellow essence ape. His strength was also unfathomable. However, he did not know where he had gone to fight with Gu Xing just now. What was the outcome of the battle now? Swoosh! With his eyes shining, Lin Feng left. Since the heated battle for the heavenly treasure had come to an end, there was no need for him to stay any longer. Moreover, he had benefited a lot from using Wing's ability. He should stop while he was ahead. Let's go and find Senior Bull. Lin Feng smiled. He really wanted to thank him in person. If not for his help that day, he would have died long ago. How could he forget the kindness of saving his life? He walked around. He expanded his search in a circular area, but there was no aura of battle. The two of them had gone somewhere. Wing! Lin Feng's eyes lit up as he called out in his heart. In an instant, a red and green light flashed and Wing appeared. In this battle for the heavenly treasure, Wing could be said to have made a miraculous contribution. Regardless of whether it was the search for the heavenly treasure or the heavenly treasure, it had made him much richer. In particular, the heavenly treasure could only be found by chance. It was definitely the biggest gain of this trip. Although he did not obtain the heavenly treasure, compared to the other experts, his gain was already plentiful enough. There was no need to be too greedy. Help me search, Lin Feng said softly. Yes, boss. Wing did not hesitate and said valiantly. A large number of winged insects immediately burrowed into the ground. Lin Feng's eyes sparkled. With himself as the center point, a series of images appeared in front of him continuously, sharing the winged insect's vision. The surrounding scenery entered his eyes. One circle, another circle, another circle, another circle. The faster the winged insect was, the wider its field of vision would be. However, the surroundings seemed to be very calm. Has it already ended? Lin Feng muttered but did not give up. There were enough winged insects, and they spread out to every inch of the ground. Their vision was getting wider and wider, and their detection area was also getting larger. Until... That is? Lin Feng's eyes widened. His heart was greatly shocked. Chapter 13-16. Lam Tok Ti. He actually saw Lam Tok Ti. That face, that aura, there was no way he would forget it. He did not expect to see him here. Not only him, but there were also two other figures. Lin Feng frowned slightly. Was he seeing things? He seemed to have seen three figures just now, but from the winged bug's line of sight, there were only two figures. One of them was Lam Tok Ti, and the other was a demonic man that he had never seen before. His aura was very strange, it's the demon clan. Lin Feng was secretly shocked. In an instant, bang, bang, bang. The scene in front of him disappeared in the blink of an eye. Lin Feng's eyes were bright. He naturally knew that the winged bug had been discovered. Although it did not have any aura of life or energy, with the strength of Lam Tok Ti and the other demonic man, it was not difficult for them to sense the existence of the winged bug. They were Saint King-level experts. Countless winged bugs swarmed over. Their thoughts coincided with his, but before they could get close, the winged bug was declared dead. Batch after batch. But they left. Lin Feng pursed his lips. The winged bug that was attacking just now had disappeared without a trace in the blink of an eye. They were not heading in his direction, but far away. At this moment, the winged bug could no longer see the two figures. They were already far away. With the strength of the two Saint King-level experts, it was undoubtedly impossible for the winged bug to catch up. Even so, he had already gained a lot. The demon clan, Lam Tok Ti, actually has a close relationship with the demon clan. They are so cautious, and I don't know what they are discussing. It is definitely not ordinary. Lin Feng thought to himself. He did not expect that Lam Tok Ti, who had disappeared, would run into him here. This man was like a poisonous snake. If he was not careful, he would appear and bite him, consigning him to eternal damnation. In his opinion, the entire human territory, and even the 8 major territory alliance, was not as big of a threat as Lam Tok Ti alone. He was too smart. He had both means and strength. If which Emperor Jiang was a formidable and ambitious person, then Lam Tok Ti could be considered as a traitor. Colluding with the demons. There must be an unspeakable relationship between them. Perhaps, secretly betraying humans. Lin Feng's eyes flashed coldly. With Lam Tok Ti's character, he would definitely do such a thing. He was inhuman. Strange. Since he was nearby, why didn't he participate in the fight for the heavenly treasure? Scared? Lin Feng shook his head. His frown deepened, but he couldn't figure out what Lam Tok Ti was planning. It was obvious that he wouldn't do anything useless. He would not believe that Lin Quandi did not have any ulterior motives since he had come to the sorcerer realm and come to such a popular place. He must be plotting something. He had to be careful of him. And that mysterious Saint King-level demon. Lin Feng's eyes burned. He had already memorized the man's appearance and aura. They were in cahoot. The two of them had such a close relationship. This demon was definitely not a good person. If he met him in the future, he had to be 120% vigilant. He continued to search. The matter of Lam Tok Ti was just a small interlude. It would soon pass. To him, the most important thing was to find Senior Ox and thank him personally. Although he came with the red-yellow essence ape and seemed to have a close relationship with the demons, this had nothing to do with him. The demons might be the sworn enemy of the witch race and the common enemy of the ancient race and the human race, but they might not be his enemy. To a certain extent, the southern region still needed to rely on the demons, including the red-yellow essence ape. He had secretly learned many abilities from him. If his clone could master a few of them, his strength would definitely increase greatly. However, many things did not go as planned. He found the person he did not want to see. He spent a lot of effort to find the person he wanted to see, but he still did not find anything. He just brushed past him. The battle between Senior Ox and Gu Xing ended so quickly, Lin Feng muttered to himself. In his heart, he really wanted to know who had won and who had lost. In terms of feelings, he hoped that Senior Ox would win. However, his impression of Gu Xing was not bad. This child was not arrogant like the ancient race. He was very approachable. However, the outcome was not under his control. I wonder how Emperor Lien and Jixin are. Lin Feng's eyes flickered as he pondered. With that thought, he opened the compass in his left hand. Ferociously, Lin Feng officially started the trial. One step after another, he slowly walked up. The purple crystal spear in his hand shone. From time to time, he closed his eyes and danced with the spear. It was either fancy or plain. It was as if he had returned to the time when he was practicing the spear. The difference was that there was an enemy now. Chi, chi, chi. Cold light appeared. It was a silver figure holding 2 daggers. There was no one else around. The other 2 experts who cooperated with him were already beheaded. The cooperation in the formation was indeed strong. However, as the trial progressed, it could be broken one after another. Although the 3 silver figures cooperated well, they did not pose a threat to him. Especially when there was a flaw in their cooperation and one of them was killed. The remaining 2 were not a problem. The remaining one was just a target for him to practice his spear. Clouds rise. Lin Feng closed his eyes. His heart sank. He kept trying to recall that feeling. There was a faint sense of familiarity, but he could not feel it. In terms of comprehension, the clone was indeed inferior to the main body. The main body's eyes were already quite powerful. After fusing into a top-notch eye, his comprehension ability was pushed to the extreme. Although it lacked offensive means, it could make up for the increase in strength. Opening his eyes, Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly. He dodged the silver figure's attack naturally and nodded thoughtfully. He had already made a decision. Hua! In an instant, he recalled the main body. Since the scorching land had come to an end, and the main body was temporarily free, he might as well comprehend with the clone. It would undoubtedly be twice the result with half the effort. He had already connected with Thousand Love Emperor and Shi Jixin. The 2 women were safe. However, their luck was not as good as Jin Ji's. They did not gain anything. However, it was still early. The meteor's strange treasure fell far away from the scorching land. In comparison, the distance between the fearsome land and the scorching land could be used as a reference. It was not something that could be reached in a few hours. There were still many possibilities for the 2 of them. Comprehend again. The appearance of the main body felt completely different. Back then, Cloud's Spear Saint Lord had cultivated Cloud Rising with his main body, and what he had comprehended was his main body. Later on, during the battle with King Ju, he had unleashed his potential at the brink of death and successfully executed Cloud Rising with his main body as well. The 2 figures rose and fell one after another. The formation did not seem to restrict the main body and the clone from existing at the same time. Or perhaps it did not care at all. Moreover, the main body and the clone were technically one. Chi. The one holding the purple crystal spear was the clone. However, The one who truly comprehended was the main body. The two of them knew and merged together. They comprehended the concept and performed the spear move. It was as if they had returned to the time when they practiced the spear with Cloud's spear, Sacred Lord. The clouds rose and scattered. The clouds parted and fell. It was a simple yet complex concept. The deep and long comprehension displayed simplicity and naturalness to the extreme. It was very difficult. However, he had to comprehend it. This was a very powerful spear move. It was also a power that was extremely close to the level of a sage king. That day, Cloud's spear Sacred Lord used Cloud's rise to defeat Emperor Yao, one of the 12 Sacred Lords. The power of this move could be seen. Furthermore, he felt that the concept and comprehension of the spear move Cloud's rise had already surpassed the level of a sage king. If he could comprehend Cloud's rise and then comprehend the concept, the increase in strength was immeasurable. Comprehension. The main body and the clone continued to comprehend Cloud's rise. The remaining silver figure was completely useless. In front of the powerful clone, it did not have any room to retaliate. It was completely beaten up. However, he did not kill the clone. He kept it as a test subject for the spear move Cloud's rise. After all, if he killed it, the new silver figure would cooperate with him. From now on, the difficulty would only increase. 1 hour later, the efficiency is too low. Lin Feng muttered. Since he had comprehended the spear moves, he was unable to familiarize himself with the silver figure's method of coordination and its key points. There was clearly a conflict between the two. Why don't I let my main body focus on practicing the spear, while my clone gives up on comprehending the spear and focus on figuring out the method of cooperation? Lin Feng's eyes sparkled. This method was undoubtedly killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Perhaps the speed of comprehending the spear would slow down, but it was worth it. At the very least, it would free up a lot of time to figure out how to coordinate with the silver figure. Moreover, with the strength of the doppelganger, even without the amethyst spear, it was still tyrannical enough. As for his main body, not only was his perception superior to his clone's, he had even successfully executed Cloud's rise before. In this way, everyone got what they wanted. Sure enough, the efficiency was greatly increased. Hua! Hua! His eyes were burning, and his main body had completely entered its own state. Recalling Cloud's spear Holy Lord's aura and concept, as well as the battle between him and King Ju, the feeling in his heart became more and more obvious. At this moment, there was no burden or pressure. All he had was to comprehend to the best of his ability. It was as if he had returned to the early days of his cultivation, purely for the sake of becoming stronger. Whoosh! Whoosh! His figure was like a ghost. He further utilized the advantage of his body and familiarized himself with his footwork, dodging and blocking the attacks of the 3 human experts. Fighting 1 against 3, Lin Feng's clone was not at a disadvantage at all. Even if he lost the purple crystal spear, the strength of his body would not change. Before the 4 people cooperated, the clone was absolutely at ease. Their coordination is really ingenious. With such perfect coordination, the 3 human experts at the peak of the Saint Realm are actually comparable to the beginner Saint King Sorcerer Tribe experts. Compared to King Ju back then, they are even more superior. Lin Feng pondered. He remembered the coordination method, and his personal experience was still fresh in his mind. He had a deeper understanding of the mysteries within. At this moment, his main body was also gradually entering the best state. The purple crystal spear in his hand was like an illusion. His comprehension became clearer and clearer. It was as if a window was gradually opening in his mind. Everything surged like a tidal wave. Lin Feng's bewildered eyes shone brightly. It was as if he understood something. Chapter 13-17. Fight. The main body took over the battle of the doppelganger. Clang! Along with the amethyst spear's radiance, the amethyst spear was like an illusion. It looked fierce, but it was actually soft. The combination of hardness and softness, the spear intent, was awe-inspiring. He deeply felt the texture of the spear in his hand, returning to the original simplicity. The feeling of the spear surpassed everything. The concept seemed to have unknowingly increased, finding the key point. There was no need to deliberately control it, and no need for any complicated technique. He communicated with his heart, and felt with his body and instincts. The heart moved with the spear, slowly closing his eyes. Lin Feng danced among the 3 silver figures, feeling the rich battle aura. His body was enjoying it. He had comprehended it. If the battle with King Ju was said to be a fluke, then this time, it was a true comprehension of the heart. Spear technique. Cloud rises. Hua! The fragmented white mist dispersed, gathering into a cloud. Dancing in this cloud, the white fog gathered and turned into a cloud. All of the aura gathered at this point. The aura was calm and natural, the power condensed like clouds, appearing faintly. It was a simple spear, but it was unstoppable. Cloud rises. Lin Feng said softly. The spear pierced out, bringing with it a deep spear intent, enveloping the entire space. Facing the descending axe of the silver figure holding a giant axe, the amethyst spear rolled up the entire space, bringing with it an incomparable killing intent. With an indescribable feeling of spear intent, it directly broke through the tyrannical axe. It did not break through with brute force, but with the suppression of the realm of spear technique. The power of the spear was unstoppable. Even if the Water Spirit Master's control appeared, and the Earth Spirit Master's defense was set up, but they could not block this spear that appeared out of nowhere. Chi! A crisp sound. Clean, neat, the appearance of the spear was not sloppy. One spear was another spear, straightforward. The clouds rose and the fog dispersed. Dawn broke. Fast. Extremely fast. One spear after another. Lin Feng completely integrated into the spear technique. At this moment, familiarizing himself with coordination was completely set aside. All that was left was to practice his spear. It wasn't easy for him to grasp the trick and comprehend the execution and feeling of clouds rise. There was even a faint feeling of an opportunity and a breakthrough in his spear arts concept. How could he not grasp this opportunity well? It was like an epiphany of profound mysteries. This kind of feeling was not something that could be obtained often. In the previous battle with King Ju, if he had immediately comprehended the spear move after that, he would have already grasped the spear move. Cloud rising. Why would he have to wait so long? Epiphany was something that could only be encountered and not sought. Clouds rise. The transformation of spear intent and concept. There are no fixed moves, only changes in the heart. Using one's heart to control the spear moves, using one's heart to determine the might of the spear moves. This illusory spear move is indeed the most straightforward spear move in the concept of spear art. Its might, unlimited. Lin Feng thought to himself. At this moment, he finally understood why Holy Lord Cloudpair was able to defeat Emperor Yao with the rising clouds. The key lay in the realm of his spear technique. Cloud rising was the most direct upgrade and change in the realm of spear art. It was like a kind of sublimation, or rather, a kind of evolution of the heart, materializing the realm of spear arts and completely transforming the realm of spear arts. Rather than calling it a spear move, it was better to say that it was the foundation of the realm of spear arts, evolving the realm of spear arts to an unimaginable level. The level of a starry sky expert. Lin Feng pursed his lips tightly, his eyes sparkling. At this moment, he truly understood how powerful Holy Lord Cloudpair was and how terrifying his strength was. He had comprehended the spear move. He had also made a breakthrough in the realm of spear arts. However, it was only a small breakthrough. From the 8th level of the spear arts to the 8th level of the spear arts, after the purple crystal spear's enhancement by one level, his spear arts were not inferior to any spear master's. He had reached the strongest realm of spear arts that a Saint King could control, the 9th level of the spear arts. Above that was the power of a starry sky expert. It was extremely difficult to break through. Chi. Using actual combat to hone himself, he still needed enough time and battles to completely master the spear move, Cloud Rising. Although his spear arts had only improved by one level, he had mastered Cloud Rising, which was undoubtedly a great improvement to his strength. The battles became simple and fast. In just a few battles, he had broken the record for the second time. Then, he advanced like a hot knife through butter. With the invincible power of a Saint King's spear arts, he destroyed the barriers that the doppelganger had encountered before. The 35th level, the 39th level, the 43rd level. The silver figures were in groups of 4, and each group had better teamwork than the other. However, the spear move, Cloud Rising, was too explosive. It even suppressed these peak Saint Kings with its spear arts realm. It was just like how Witch Emperor Zhang's Space Dao completely suppressed the red-yellow ape. After all, peak Saint Kings suppressed Heaven Realm experts who were good at close combat. It was naturally difficult for them to cooperate well. Suppress. The comprehension of Cloud Rising became more and more proficient. It could be said that he could control it as he wished. At this moment, he had perfectly combined the 9th level of the spear arts with the spear. Actual combat was the fastest way to improve one's strength. The 47th level. Lin Feng's eyes lit up and he frowned slightly. Finally, there was a change. This time, he felt 5 auras. It was no longer a group of 4, but a group of 5. Although it was still formed by human experts who were at the pinnacle of the saint level, according to the previous pattern, the more people there were, the more complicated their cooperation would be, and the stronger their power would be. A group of 4 was comparable to a mid-level Saint King-level sorcerer tribe powerhouse. So what if they were in a group of 5? Boom. Boom. 2 auras, 1 fire and 1 water, instantly appeared, forming a dense firepower. At this moment, 3 robust figures formed the shape of a sharp cone as they charged over swiftly. The 5 points vaguely seemed to form a net, just like 5 bright points in the starry sky. They intersected with each other, drawing each other in and influencing each other. It was an extremely profound feeling. Lin Feng held the purple crystal spear tightly, his eyes bright. Very strong. The answer came out very quickly. It was a vivid battle, and the blood boiled. Although he relied on the power of the spear move, Cloud Rising, and was unstoppable in the previous levels, he was really restricted here. Especially when these silver figures could not only cooperate skillfully, but they also had a leader who led the entire team. The strength of a leader was stronger than a single silver figure. The 12 constellations of the Way of the King appeared. Purring! He fell down. Lin Feng vomited blood and fell heavily to the ground, his face pale. It was quite tragic. He did not use his clone to fight, and he fought purely with his original body. Although he had gathered all his strength to kill the silver figure leader, he had exhausted his stellar source energy and was killed by the other 4 silver figures. Just as he had estimated, the cooperation of the 5 saint-level peak stage human experts had increased their strength once again. Although they were still not as strong as a true high-level Saint King wizard, the difference was not too big. Their cooperation is exquisite and tacit. There is also a kind of array power that affects each other, and they can unleash the strength of a Saint King. It is difficult to break through with the spear move, Cloud Rising. Lin Feng muttered to himself. His original body sat cross-legged and began a long recovery. Although his recovery ability was not as good as his clones, his original body also had the bloodline of a divine beast, comparable to a phoenix, and his recovery speed was also amazing. His clone suddenly appeared, and his eyes were bright, and he was not injured at all. During the battle, he had already put away his clone. If his original body, who was proficient in the spear move Cloud Rising, was not a match, his clone would naturally not be a match. The 108 steps are indeed terrifying. If I want to obtain the heavenly treasure, it seems that I am still far from it. He raised his head and looked at the proud existence on the step. The light weapon shone with the same energy aura as the light pillar. The moment his original body appeared here, he felt extremely tempted. There was no doubt that this light weapon was one of the heavenly treasures. Previously, he was 80 or 90% sure, but now he was 100% sure. His previous thoughts were correct. Instead of deliberately pursuing the heavenly treasure, it was better to carefully study the cooperation of these human experts. To him, it was something that he could see and touch. As for the heavenly treasure, it would depend on fate. There was no need to force it. He turned back and looked at his original body. After being seriously injured, it took a long time to recover. In terms of physique, it was much inferior to his clone. However, he did not need to wait. What? His clone's body flashed, and he stepped onto the steps again. His journey began again. His original body had completely grasped the spear move Cloud Rising, which was a great inspiration for his clone. After all, his original body and clone were connected. If his original body could use the misty cloud steps, so could his clone. As for the concept of Cloud Rising, his clone's comprehension was much clearer than before. The only difference was that his original body and his clone belonged to two different paths. One was entering the spear, and the other was forgetting the spear. The two paths of the spear had completely different comprehension. However, no matter what, his current control and comprehension of the spear move Cloud Rising were much better than before. His clone was only one step away. If my clone can comprehend the spear move Cloud Rising, it will definitely be able to unleash power that surpasses my original body. More than 10 times. Lin Feng's eyes were bright, and he was full of confidence. Regardless of physical strength or cultivation system, his clone was a true heaven martial artist. It was the strongest in close combat. Before comprehending the spear move Cloud Rising, his clone's strength was much higher than his original body's. If he comprehended it, his strength would increase immeasurably. Not to mention other things, just the 5 silver figures on the 47th step alone was enough for him to pass without any injuries. Come. Lin Feng held the purple crystal spear and lightning flashed. This time, his comprehension was deeper, and he was more confident. Shuttling between the silver figures, he brought forth a strong aura. The combination of the golden astral energy and the spear move had a natural tacit understanding. Lin Feng naturally did not know that this spear move Cloud Rising was originally designed for martial gods. It could unleash the true power of the spear move. Sacred Master Cloud Spear was a martial god. Chapter 13:18. The concept was already there. In the realm of the spear technique, the clone was not inferior to the main body. The only thing missing was the combination of the spear technique Cloud Rising and the clone's spear technique realm. It seemed easy, but it was not that simple. Chi. The amethyst spear shone brightly. Lin Feng's gaze was deep, with a dense spear aura. He wandered around the silver figure. However, the spear technique did not have the feeling of the main body, and could not display the celestial feeling of Cloud Rising. Instead, it felt deliberate. Even if he was clear in his heart, it was easier said than done. Especially with different spear techniques, different star source energy would bring about different feelings. The comprehension of the mysteries was very subtle. The comprehension of the spear technique was the same. Fight. Without any hesitation. Lin Feng's eyes were burning, fighting to the end, using the pure strength of the clone to fight, relying on the strength of the body and understanding of the silver figure, training and breaking through, complementing each other. However, the true fusion of the spear technique cloud rising was still lacking, unable to open the door. What is missing? In the end, where is the key turning point? The amethyst spear in Lin Feng's hand was sometimes strong and sometimes weak. Lightly pursing his lips, his eyes flickered. His heart was constantly thinking and analyzing, comprehending the existence of the spear. The combination of hardness and softness, but could not display the purest spear intent of the main body. Even if his heart was immersed in it, forgetting everything, there was still a hint of deliberate intent. This illusory spear could not display its true power. Once and again, after fighting for several hours, he did not have any comprehension, only the cooperation of the human experts became clearer. The main body had already recovered, but there was no need for it at the moment. The feeling of cloud rising was already in his heart, comprehending all the spear technique. Forget. Lin Feng thought, his eyes sparkling. Maybe, because I am too focused on the fusion of heavy cloud rising and the main body's spear technique, I am unable to fuse with the clone. This is the key point. Comprehend first, then forget. Lin Feng clearly knew what he wanted, which path to take. His main body had comprehended it first, and it had indeed given him a realistic feeling and comprehension direction for his spear move, clouds rising. But at the same time, it had also given him some additional things that affected his own comprehension. At this moment, his heart was relieved, and the path before him was undoubtedly much clearer. 2 hours. 4 hours later. 6 hours. Time passed slowly. While he was practicing his spear moves, his clone had unknowingly reached the 40th level. It could be said that every minute and second, his comprehension and strength would increase. On top of that, his main body had already passed through the trial, so he had a better understanding of these silver figures. He was also able to discern the strength of their cooperation. It slowly climbed up, neither fast nor slow. Just a little bit more. Lin Feng's eyes were blurred but firm. He was well aware of his current progress. If he had been pacing back and forth at the door before, then he had already reached the door. Only the key point had yet to be found. He was only a hair's breadth away from the true comprehension of rising clouds. However, there was still one last step. What is it? What was it? Lin Feng pursed his lips tightly, and beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. Unknowingly, a lot of time had passed, and his star source energy was nearing a state of exhaustion. It was not being consumed at every moment. Even if his 7 souls combined into one body could store more star source energy and have more stamina, but right now it seemed that he had reached his limit. His body became exhausted. Pa! Holding the purple crystal spear tightly, Lin Feng's eyes flashed. At that moment, his mind inexplicably recalled the moment when his main body had first comprehended and used cloud rise. That scene seemed to be very similar to what had just happened. The feeling was so deep, and it made him remember it. Limit! It's the limit. Lin Feng's eyes lit up and his heart was certain. At this moment, standing outside, he carefully recalled the battle with King Ju. He was unable to summon his clone to fight, and could only use his weak main body to fight against King Ju, who was at the Saint King level and had gray energy. It could be said that he was like a lamp without oil and had no more strength to fight. His soul energy had reached its limit. His body had also reached its limit. Including the star source energy, it was also on the verge of drying up. At that time, he could no longer rely on anything. All that was left was the spear in his hand, and the last bit of strength, as if it was the last attack before death. When he reached his limit, his heart was calm. Holding the purple crystal spear, he felt the existence of the spear, and then everything happened naturally. When the conditions were right, success was achieved. I understand. Lin Feng slowly closed his eyes. His aura slowed down, and the flickering star source energy also gradually dimmed. The movement of his body became much slower. At this moment, the situation suddenly changed. Pung, pung, pung. He was attacked again and again, and his injuries worsened again and again. Lin Feng's expression was solemn. Although he was enduring the pain, his eyes were abnormally firm. The purple crystal spear in his hand flashed, but he did not counterattack. Instead, he silently endured the attacks again and again. His body was already riddled with holes, but these were nothing. It was intentional. His strength was disappearing. His star source energy was constantly being depleted. He was already on the verge of despair, and now there was no saving him. It was as if he had entered a dead end. It's not enough. Lin Feng's face was pale, but his will was firm. Looking at the long sword in front of him, he gritted his teeth, half of his body avoided the vital point of his heart, and with a "chi" sound, he used his body to test the sword. His pupils dilated and blood vessels spread. No matter how strong his body was, it could not withstand such a torment, but he had to do this. This was the fastest way and also the best way. Puff! Spitting out a mouthful of blood, Lin Feng's consciousness was already a little blurred. At this moment, waves of turbulent waves came from the front, whistling towards him. Once again, it rushed to his chest, and the thunderous power spread throughout his body. Boom! Like a kite with a broken string, Lin Feng fell straight behind. His fists were still clenched tightly, and his eyes were bright. He felt the intense pain, but he could not feel any power to counterattack. His heart inexplicably became calm. At this moment, everything around him was in his heart. Holding the purple crystal spear in his hand, the warm temperature made him deeply feel the existence of the spear. There was only one thing. The combination that he had never had before finally appeared at this moment. In the silence of the intense battle, he let go of everything. The existence of the limit forced him into a desperate situation, and also forced the purple crystal spear to the end of its road. The rising clouds that he had never understood finally touched his heart. At this moment, his heart entered. He and the purple crystal spear became one. This feeling was not unfamiliar. The battle with King Ju was like this, familiar and intimate. Finally, Lin Feng's lips curled into a weak smile. Everything he had done was worth it. He finally met the opportunity. He raised his head, but he could not see the sky. Because his consciousness was already blurred, but the spear in his hand was completely sensed, and there was a unique feeling. Holding the spear, he no longer feared this heaven and earth, and no longer had to hide. Everything seemed to have become nothing, and was no longer important. But, holding the spear tightly, his heart felt extremely strong. There was nothing that could hurt him anymore. There was no power that could defeat him. Confidence spontaneously rose. One person, one spear. The feeling of standing upright between heaven and earth. Boom! Boom! Hailstones fell from the sky, bringing with them the power of water. It fell straight down crazily, sharp like a sharp weapon, as if it could pierce through everything. Lin Feng raised his head, his figure flashed, and dodged in an instant. At this moment, the silver figure in front of him, who had just heavily injured him, was chasing after him. His aura was clear and clear, triggering the power of the other silver figures, bursting with electricity. But the current him was different from before. Pa! His right head moved slightly, and the power of the star source appeared. The golden light was not bright, as if it was the last attack, but it had an aura that he had never had before. Holding the purple crystal spear in his hand, he felt the texture of the spear in his hand, and returned to the origin. He did not need to deliberately control it, and did not need any complicated skills. He communicated with his heart, and used his body and instincts to feel. At this moment, the entire heaven and earth was only left with him and the purple crystal spear. It was so simple and direct to connect the heaven and earth. Ta! With a step, he landed in front of him. Lin Feng's eyes flashed, and the purple crystal spear appeared where his heart was. The white mist in the air dispersed and gathered into clouds. His aura gathered, and the remaining strength and aura turned into a clean and neat spear that appeared with a bang. The realm of the spear technique was completely merged with the rising clouds, and the feeling was even deeper. Nothing could stop this spear. It was purer and more direct than the main body's spear. Whether it was strength, speed, or even the power of the star source, they all far surpassed the main body. The power of a true war god. Clouds rise. Lin Feng shouted, his eyes shining. The ultimate attack brought about the ultimate effect. The unstoppable spear tore the silver figure into pieces as if it was tearing paper. In front of him, the surging waves attacked. However, Lin Feng did not dodge or avoid. He faced the waves head-on, and the purple crystal spear in his hand boiled with fighting spirit. It pierced through everything. Boom! The power completely erupted. Comprehended. After the main body, the clone had also truly comprehended. Spear move, clouds rise. Although the realm of the spear technique had not increased, the fusion with the spear move, the clone's war god strength had completely raised the power of clouds rise to a whole new level. The unstoppable attack saw blood, and in just a moment, he had already stepped into the 50th level. It was unstoppable. One step after another. With every attack, he had familiarized himself with clouds rise and turned the attack into an absolute attack. With one spear, a silver figure was destroyed. In front of the new power of clouds rise, the silver figure with the strength of a peak saint was as weak as a piece of paper, without any room to fight back. Even the first 5-man defense line that the clone found difficult to deal with, and the final defeat was easily broken through, including the silver figure's commander. Too strong. The spear move clouds rise seemed to be born for battle. Lin Feng was the same. After comprehending the spear move clouds rise, the clone's strength had increased by far more than the main body, because this truly belonged to the power of a war god. However, at this moment, Lin Feng, who was in the formation, did not know that outside the danger grounds, someone had appeared. Chapter 13-19. It was a young man with delicate features. However, his expression was unsightly, and it faintly revealed a wisp of desolation and powerlessness. Moreover, his aura fluctuated between strong and weak. He was Gu Sheng, a genius of the ancient clan. After experiencing the Battle of the Hot Land and fighting 300 rounds with the Bull Demon King, Gu Sheng no longer had any valiant and elegant demeanor. One had to know that the Bull Demon King's strength was not much weaker than the Crimson Yellow Ape. During the first competition, the Crimson Yellow Ape lost to the Bull Demon King. As for Gu Sheng, he could not be compared to the Witch Emperor Jiang. The battle between the two could not be said to be a draw. To be exact, Gu Sheng was the passive one. Be it battle experience or strength, he was not as good as the Bull Demon. Defeat was only a matter of time. And this battle was the first time Gu Sheng had experienced a defeat. It was not a true defeat. In fact, before the battle ended, the Bull Demon had already left. However, at that time, Gu Sheng was already at his wit's end. I finally found it. Gu Sheng's eyes shone. You are not beside me. Gu Sheng was a genius of the ancient clan. How could he tolerate such a defeat? No matter who the opponent was, being defeated by the Bull Demon made him feel deeply humiliated. His arrogant pride caused him to naturally not wait or look for Qi. He wanted to take revenge and regain his former glory, and he wanted to rely on his own strength and not rely on anyone else. In fact, Gushing felt that he did not have the face-to-face Qi or anyone else. This was Gushing's first defeat. There are indeed 3 heavenly treasures. Gushing's eyes lit up. With the ability to sense heavenly treasures to the extreme, he was naturally able to find this place more easily than other experts. Gushing's breathing quickened. He was injured. The ancient clan had never been strong with their bodies. Even if Gushing was talented, his body could not be compared to Lin Feng's. However, he did not care. It's mine. This heavenly treasure must be mine. His eyes were bright and filled with determination. Gushing's long hair fluttered in the wind. His fair skin had a demonic beauty. His expression was firm. 2 of the 3 heavenly treasures had been decided. The last one was, he was determined to win. Sorcerer Realm. Finally, it became lively. The crowd was in an uproar. The news of the Sorcerer Emperor defeating the demon commander had already spread throughout the entire sorcerer territory. No, it should be said that it was the entire land. The human clan, the ancient clan, the sorcerer clan, and even the demon clan knew about this. Just as Lin Feng had expected, even though Witch Emperor Jiang did not kill the red-yellow ape, but this was the best opportunity to strike the demon clan. How could he let it go? Once in a blue moon. Fight. This was the first time the Magi had taken the initiative to fight. Sorcerer Emperor Jiang personally led the army of the Sorcerer clan and the Ancient clan. He stepped out of the Sorcerer clan's territory and attacked the Demon clan's army that was advancing towards the Sorcerer clan's territory with an unstoppable momentum. With a spurt of energy, Sorcerer Emperor Jiang used the fame of the battle in the hot land and his own unparalleled strength to inflict heavy damage to the Demon clan's army. He even personally killed as many as 6 Demon clan Saint Kings. Among them, there was even one of the 12 demon stars that led this demon army. Hang his head high in the air. He had succeeded in one battle. The morale of the Sorcerer clan was even higher. As for the Demon clan, they were completely stunned. This was the true beginning of the Third Great Magi-Demon War. It was the first head-on battle. However, it ended with the defeat of the Demon clan. When 2 armies faced off, the number and strength of the soldiers were part of the battle. The strength of the general was another part. Morale was also another part. As the battle progressed, the Sorcerer clan won the battle that was originally evenly matched. Sorcerer Emperor Jiang even rode the wind and waves and personally led the Sorcerer clan's army, a complete counterattack. He attacked the other army of the Demon clan. At this point, the Demon clan retreated and waited for reinforcements. They disappeared without a trace. As for the 3 human clans, no matter where they were celebrating in unison. It was a lively scene. Among them, the 8 human alliance were included. Only the southern region received the news at this moment. Everyone was terrified and resentful. Long lines had already formed outside the teleportation array in the various counties. In the southern region, the group led by Shun had already held more than one meeting to discuss. The situation was rather serious. Why don't we let Lin Feng come back and preside over the situation? King Lu frowned. That's right, eldest senior brother. King Yan's gaze was also burning. It's not just the commoners. Many saint-level experts also have the intention to leave. The Sorcerer clan's morale is high and the Demon clan has been beaten until they have no temper. If this continues, the southern region will be in trouble. Shun's eyes lit up. He naturally understood what King Yin meant. The southern region could be said to be a completely independent force now. There was both opportunity and danger. If the Sorcerer and Demon clans fought endlessly inland and entered a stalemate, no one would have the energy to care about the southern region. However, if the Sorcerer clan beat the Demon clan into the bottomless abyss, or even back to the endless ocean in one go, the Demon clan would not dare to do anything in the short term. What would the Sorcerer clan do? The answer was obvious. They would probably completely eliminate the only disharmonious factor in the southern region. Whoa! Shun's expression was serious. His gaze kept changing. How could he not know? Observing the stars at night, the star of the sorcerer clan had the advantage of time and place. It completely suppressed the star of the demon clan's emperor. Its morale was high. The strength of the sorcerer clan was not without reason. The ability of the sorcerer emperor was also bottomless. Although the defeat of the demon clan was unexpected, it was expected. However, at this moment, although it was covered by the star of the sorcerer clan, the emperor's star of the human clan did not dim. Instead, it became brighter and brighter, increasing its presence. Unknowingly, it was getting closer and closer to the rising star of the ancient clan. Lin Feng was also improving. It was not a good time to disturb him now. No. Shun hesitated for a long time and rejected their suggestion. I believe that Lin Feng has his own judgment. This matter has not reached the point of extreme urgency. Let us solve it ourselves. King Lu and King Yen looked at each other worriedly. But King Lu wanted to persuade him again but was interrupted by Shun. There's no need to say anything. Shun's eyes lit up. I'll take responsibility if anything happens. Don't disturb Lin Feng. King Lu, you'll appease the saint-level experts. Shun looked at King Lu and then at King Yen. He said seriously, leave the rest to me and King Yen. Ferociously, Lin Feng's strength erupted. His clone had learned the spear move, cloud rising, and was like a tiger that had grown wings. On his first try, he broke through the encirclement of 5 people and broke his main body's previous record. Although he had exhausted his astral origin power and was defeated by the subsequent wave of attacks from the 5 people, this defeat was not because of his battle strength. His clone recovered his primordial energy and his main body entered the battle again. Now that they had both comprehended the spear move, cloud rising, his main body's strength was naturally inferior to his clone's. There was no need for him to forcefully break through the step. Instead, he took on the task of familiarizing himself with the silver figure's cooperation. The rest was left to his clone. In a short time, after his injuries healed, his clone fought again. His tyrannical strength was unstoppable. He killed his way up from the 1st level to the 56th level without suffering any injuries. The spear move, cloud rising, was too powerful. From the 57th to the 61st level, although the silver figure's cooperation was stronger, he still won easily. Wherever the spear went, the silver figure could not dodge at all. No matter how strong the array formation was or how good their cooperation was, when one's strength reached a certain level, there was no solution. There was truly no solution. His clone had become too strong. The tyrannical body of the 7 souls as one, coupled with the power of the spear at the peak of the Saint King level, the current Lin Feng was comparable to a high-level Saint King level master. Moreover, because of his powerful explosive power, breaking the array was as easy as blowing off dust. He was not injured, but the consumption of astral origin power was quite intense. In order to familiarize myself with the spear move, cloud rising, I have consumed too much astral origin power. Lin Feng frowned slightly, feeling a bit of a headache. In front of him, there was only one silver figure left. He was constantly causing trouble for him. Even if he had no chance of winning, he was constantly consuming his strength like a war of attrition. Just like what those silver figures had done to him before. Killing him was very simple. But in an instant, he had to face the next wave of silver figures. They were stronger, more terrifying, and in their peak state. Is there any way to immediately recover my astral origin power? Lin Feng pondered for a moment. Suddenly, his eyes lit up and he burst into laughter. He easily dodged the silver figure's attack, but with a thought, his original body suddenly appeared. With a fierce aura, the flames burned. In an instant, he faced the last silver figure. As for his clone Hua, away from the attack range, he sat down cross-legged. Lin Feng took a deep breath. Seeing that his original body had completely controlled the silver figure, his heart calmed down. He focused his mind and sensed the heaven and earth, searching for the existence of his natal constellation. In an instant, he found it. Lin Feng's lips curled into a smile, and he began to absorb the astral origin power. A shortcut. Right in front of him, it slowly spread out. With his original body's strength, it was impossible to restrain 5 silver figures, but it was easy to restrain one of them. Here, there was no restriction on his original body and clone appearing together, which made it much more convenient. These 108 steps were so high, and the following challenges would be stronger each time. And every time he recovered 100% of his strength to challenge, his chances would undoubtedly be much higher. Maybe. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. If I go up step by step like this, I might really reach the top step and break the array within the array. Bang, bang, bang. His heartbeat was extremely fast. Along with the dense astral origin power covering his entire body, Lin Feng's eyes lit up, and he felt that his hope had multiplied. Although it was up to fate, this was a heavenly treasure. Who didn't want to have it? Moreover, it was an existence that he could merge with. Once he obtained this heavenly unique treasure, it was hard to imagine how much his strength would soar and what level he would reach. In his mind, the battle between which Emperor Jiang and the red-yellow essence ape appeared. Standing at the peak of the Douling world, that battle at the top of the pyramid made him envious, and he couldn't wait to join them. He really wanted to have this kind of strength, and now, unknowingly, the opportunity had arrived. Heavenly treasure, light weapon. Chapter 1320. One step after another. He felt that every time he defeated a silver figure, he would get closer to the heavenly treasure. The silver figures were really strong. Even if they were just peak saint-level human warriors, they still had a leader of the 12 constellations of the royal path. Their strength was different. And every time he went up a level, it would be harder, and the power produced would be stronger. The 62nd level. Clang! The purple crystal spear shone coldly. Lin Feng's fighting spirit was boiling. After the main body completed its mission, it left. Reaching the 62nd level, the main body's usefulness was greatly reduced. It was hard to tell how strong Yun Qi's doppelganger was. Other than the star source energy consumption, the 5 silver figures could not stop him. Their only use was to wear him down. Using the method of attrition to wear down his own star source energy, they would create an advantage for their comrades behind. Of course, there was always a mountain higher than the one before. Pung! His aura surged, Lin Feng's eyes shone with light. Thunder roared, the golden star source energy shone brightly, the thunder slaughter armor wrapped around his body, exploding with a tyrannical power. After a period of rest, the doppelganger's body not only reached its peak, the star source energy filled every cell, completely overflowing. His best state. Come. Lin Feng's lips curled. The 5 silver figures flashed in front of him, their aura extraordinary. But he had full confidence. Fight. It was an exhilarating battle. But in the blink of an eye, victory was decided. Lin Feng had a wild and unrestrained aura. The battle just now was just a warm-up for him who had recovered his star source energy. He did not need to recover. Even if he used a bit of star source energy, it did not matter. Pung! The last silver figure disappeared. The 67th level. Lin Feng's eyes shone. He was getting closer and closer to the heavenly treasure. At this moment, the main body's heart was palpitating more and more, as if he could feel the high and mighty light tool calling out to him. As long as he could pass the test, break the array within the array, he would be able to reach the true array core. Face it head on. At that time, with the compatibility between the main body and the light tool, he had a 90% chance of instantly complete compatibility. Hua! Light flashed. He could feel the aura in his heart, but it was not 5 auras but 6. Another upgrade. However, there was no panic in Lin Feng's eyes. All he had was confidence in his strength and a strong will to fight. The strength of the 5 silver figures was no longer a threat to him, but he did not know if the 6 silver figures could force him to use 100% of his strength. Come! Lin Feng's hand shook, and the amethyst spear pointed straight ahead. His fighting spirit was boiling. The war of liches and demons had completely broken out. The shaman Emperor Jiang personally took command and gathered all the forces of the ancient shamans and the shamans. He waved his army and officially launched a counterattack. They had won the first battle. With the momentum of defeating the demon commander, the Magi were invincible. They advanced forward crazily, aiming for the other army of the demon clan. The army had split into 2 groups. One of the vanguard of the demonic beasts had suffered heavy losses and was completely annihilated. Even one of the 12 demonic stars had been killed. One could only imagine how great their losses were. It could be said that the sorcerer tribe had the upper hand. However, at this moment, within the army, the shaman Emperor Jiang's expression was grave. Not only him, but even the 2 shaman kings closest to him, Xian Ming and Hutu, had solemn expressions. The atmosphere froze. It seemed that something had happened. Big brother, is there really no other way? Xian Ming asked in a low voice. His tone was a little depressed. Yes, big brother. Can't we delay it a little longer? Hutu was quite anxious. It was rare for him, who had always been calm, to show such an expression. The matter was quite troublesome. It was hard to imagine what had happened to the sorcerer tribe that had the upper hand at this moment to make a shaman emperor and 2 shaman kings look like this. Shaking his head, the shaman Emperor Jiang sighed. His lonely expression hid many emotions. He looked up at the starry sky with his hands behind his back. At this moment, the sorcerer tribe's star, which symbolized the hope of mankind, shone brightly and bloomed. Not to mention the demon clan's emperor's star, even if all the other stars were added together, they could not be compared to this sorcerer tribe's star. It was like the difference between the bright moon and a firefly. However, there was no joy in the shaman emperor's eyes. Instead, there was a worried expression. His gaze fell on the sorcerer tribe's star. The 3 points and the line had already collapsed, but the ancient tribe's new star and the human clan's emperor's star were still close to each other. His eyes were bright, and the shaman emperor's expression changed from time to time. All the words he wanted to say turned into a long sigh, and he closed his eyes. It seemed to be a statement, or it was a tacit agreement and helplessness. Is this heaven's will? Shaman Emperor Jiang murmured. Is this heaven's will? The arrival of the heavenly treasure, the 3 points and the line of the human clan, the appearance of the strange scene, including the 2 emperors' stars shining at the same time, all of this seemed to be destined by fate, but there were too many changes that could happen. How powerful was the heavenly treasure? Perhaps only the shaman Emperor Di Jiang, who had fused with the Sky Ark, knew that even the red-yellow essence ape, who had obtained the light pillar and turned it into a giant rod, could not truly use it. As for the last light weapon, it was still an ownerless item. Although there were people fighting for it, it did not mean that they could obtain it. Other than luck and opportunity, one also needed to have sufficient strength. Pooh! Pooh! Gu Xing spat out blood violently. His face was pale and ugly. Illusion, don't try to stop me. I am the emperor of the ancient tribe, who is rarely seen in thousands of years. I am the future emperor of the ancient tribe. I, Gu Xing, will definitely not fall here. He roared in anger. At this moment, Gu Xing no longer had any gentleness or elegance. His exquisite face had even become much more ferocious. His already heavily injured body had become even more injured. His aura was extremely weak. His body was covered in blood. His body had already reached a critical point. However, Gu Xing's eyes were bloodshot, but he was still stubborn and unyielding. He had a prideful self-esteem. This was a double-edged sword. It could allow him to succeed, but it would also hurt him. Gu Xing's defeat in the battle with the bull demon was shocking. It was an epic defeat. Originally, he even thought that other than the shaman Emperor Di Jiang, he was invincible. However, the appearance of the bull demon had completely beaten him into a bottomless abyss, causing his heart to completely collapse. He had lost. What he lost was not only his body but also his heart. His perfect and flawless heart had become full of holes. It was a scene of devastation. The most direct result was that Gu Xing had completely fallen into this mere illusion. Rather than saying that he had fallen into an illusion, it was more accurate to say that he had fallen into his own heart's devil. He was deeply trapped, unable to extricate himself. With his original strength, this illusory fog wouldn't be able to stop him at all. He could even break it with a raise of his hand. However, right now, it had become a fatal dagger, stabbing him again and again, causing him to be in so much pain that he wished he was dead. Ha ha! Ha 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 ha! Gu Xing laughed arrogantly and wantonly. He had completely given up on resisting. He opened his arms and staggered forward. His eyes became even more stubborn. He had already reached the point where he was possessed. His prideful self-esteem made him unwilling to take a step back, even if the result of continuing forward might be death. He was fearless. This was Gu Xing. He probably had the most prideful heart in the Douling world. Bang! 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 The repeated collisions shook Gu Xing's soul. However, his eyes were still shining with a cold light. It was hard to imagine that under that feminine face there would be such a stubborn personality, such a strong tenacity. Even if his body was shattered, he would still be unyielding. Until, all the illusions around him disappeared. His body stopped like a stone. The light in Gu Xing's eyes became dimmer and dimmer. He lost the pressure and at the same time, lost his last bit of strength. His eyes were blurred. His body and mind had long exceeded their limit. Gu Xing's eyes were lifeless. With a bang, he fell heavily to the ground and lost consciousness. Whether he was dead or alive, there was no way to know. At this moment, Lin Feng was still trying to break through the barrier. Naturally, he did not know that Gu Xing had completely fainted outside the array. In fact, even if he knew, he would not do anything. They could not be considered friends or enemies. However, they were competitors right now. Who could obtain the heavenly treasure would depend on luck and opportunity. No one knew whether Lin Feng would be able to obtain it first or whether Gu Xing would surpass him. Even the heavens did not know. Or perhaps a third expert, or even a fourth or fifth, would appear? No one knew, and there was no need to know. To Lin Feng, the only one he could control was himself. Everything else was not within his control. Since that was the case, there was no need to worry. What should happen would happen. As long as he did his best, he would not regret it even if he did not obtain it. Boom! Boom! Astral origin energy exploded. Now is the time. Lin Feng's eyes were completely bright. He had finally found the best opportunity to fight with the 6 silver figures. He did not attack the strongest silver figure commander. Instead, he changed his direction and directly attacked the Heavenly Soul Master who had been secretly influencing him. At this moment, they were no longer able to stop him. The clouds rose and dispersed. Dawn broke. The powerful spear was fearless in the face of the Heavenly Soul Master's counterattack before his death. Chi! The spear shattered all of his defenses. It's over. Lin Feng's eyes flashed. A corner of the array of the 6 silver figures had already shattered. The rest could no longer stop him. The 6 silver figures became 5. Although their cooperation was still good, and their strength was better than the previous 5 silver figures, it was as if they had fallen from a high-level Saint King to a mid-level Saint King. There was no need to say more about their strength. How could they unleash 100% of their strength now? In less than 30 seconds they broke through one by one. Lin Feng's expression was calm and composed. He did not leave a single one alive. Although nearly a third of his astral source energy had been consumed, his condition was at its peak. He was even stronger than during the warm-up. How could he stop? There's still one more stage to pass. Lin Feng's eyes were bright and full of confidence. He raised his spear and the last silver figure disappeared into thin air, turning into nothingness. Ta! Lin Feng landed on the ground. Holding the purple crystal spear in his hand, his expression was full of vigor. He looked straight ahead without any fear. There was only boiling fighting spirit, waiting for the next batch of 6 or even 7 silver figures to descend in front of him. But however, a sudden change occurred. Whoosh! A dazzling golden light shot out. Lin Feng's eyes instantly lit up. Chapter 13:21. An aura. It was a complete victory over the silver figure from before. Saint King level? Lin Feng's eyes lit up, and his heart trembled. A bright golden light came from afar. It was not the golden color of star source energy, but a golden star armor. It was completely different from the silver star armor of the silver figure from before. Not only was the star armor stronger, but the aura was stronger as well. The aura had completely changed. This was a low-level Saint King-level human powerhouse. A heavenly warrior. It seems to have changed. Lin Feng muttered. From the silver figure to the golden figure, its strength had greatly increased. This was the 73rd step. But for him, a Saint King-level powerhouse is even better. Lin Feng smiled faintly. Compared to 6 or 7 peak Saint-level powerhouses working together, a low-level Saint King-level martial artist could not compare at all. It would be easy for him to cross the 73rd step. Even if he did not use the spear move Rising Clouds, he could easily win. But was it that easy? No. Lin Feng pursed his lips as a sharp light flashed in his eyes. Behind him, he inexplicably felt a bone-piercing gloominess, as if a poisonous snake was hiding in the dark. There was another one. It's not that simple, Lin Feng thought to himself. In addition to this Saint King-level heavenly warrior, there was another Saint King-level heavenly god. One close and one far, it was the best combination. It seems that this test not only requires understanding of arrays, but also being able to defeat the cooperation of powerhouses of the same level. Similarly, I need to defeat a stronger martial artist. And there's more than one. The pincer attack from the front and back was like a hurricane. However, Lin Feng's eyes flashed. There was no fear in them, only confidence. Compared to the cooperation of many people before, he could deal with these Saint King-level powerhouses more easily. Clang! The purple crystal spear shone brightly, and his aura was at its peak. Lin Feng's aura was majestic. He did not advance but instead retreated, attacking the heavenly god behind him. First go outside, then close. This was the truth that he had comprehended on the first 72 step. 1 against 2. Moreover, it was a battle between a peak Saint Realm Master and 2 early Saint King Realm Masters. This would be unimaginable anywhere in the Douling world. But now, not only had Lin Feng not fallen into a disadvantageous position, he had instead cleanly slaughtered 2 Saint King Realm Low-Order Masters, one after the other. Yes, it was a massacre, not a defeat. It's not that they are weak, but... Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly. He held the purple crystal spear in his hand, and felt the power flowing into him. I'm too strong. Clang! The amethyst spear flashed. After the buff, His spear technique had already reached the peak of the Saint King grade, and with the help of Cloud Rising, he was able to perfectly manifest his spear technique. Battle after battle allowed Cloud Rising to become more and more proficient, and more compatible. The same spear move, Cloud's Rise, was displayed with the strength of his doppelganger. Compared to the strength of his main body, it was on a completely different level. Chi. Spear intent filled the sky. After killing the golden figures on the 73rd and 74th steps, the golden figures on the 75th and 76th steps soon followed suit. Although their strength and cooperation were stronger and more refined, they were still unable to withstand a single blow from him. My improvement is too great. Lin Feng's eyes sparkled as he smiled slightly. Not long ago, he had faced a Saint King realm low order, King Ju, who had just broken through, and was surrounded by danger. But now, he could easily slaughter two masters whose strength was not inferior to King Ju's. And he could do it with ease. This was an improvement. Maybe there really is hope for the 108th step, Lin Feng said softly. At this moment, his extremely strong aura and combat strength made him unable to stop. Golden light flashed in front of him, and as the golden figure on the 76th step disappeared, in an instant, 3 golden figures appeared. They formed a perfect triangle, and their aura suppressed him. 3 of them. As expected, it will slowly increase. Lin Feng's eyes were burning. However, his fighting spirit did not decrease, but increased instead. Along with the boiling fighting spirit, the amethyst spear was also like a roaring dragon, surging with momentum. What was there to fear? In the sorcerer tribe realm, it was in full swing and the crowd was boiling. The fight for the meteor rare treasure had completely begun. As time passed, the masters found the approximate location of the meteor rare treasure. After the hot spot, another round of fighting began. The warriors who had obtained one of the meteor rare treasures naturally wanted to obtain 2, 3, or even more. There weren't many people who were truly content with what they had. As for those who did not obtain the meteor rare treasure, they were even more enthusiastic and crazy. Robberies and assassinations were carried out in every corner of the sorcerer tribe realm. Boom! Boom! The 2 masters of the sorcerer tribe did not give in to each other, and they fought to the death. They were both at the peak of the saint level, but they fought fiercely over an earth-level gold treasure. No matter how strong the sorcerer tribe was, they were fundamentally like the other tribes, and there would be internal strife. In fact, the 12 tribes of the sorcerer tribe basically did not like each other, just like how the ancient tribes worshipped different divine beasts. It was the same for the sorcerer tribe. But, the fight between the 2 sides soon came to an end. On the sides of the 2 masters of the sorcerer tribe, 2 terrifying figures attacked swiftly. They had powerful auras and were astonishingly fast. The star source energy fluctuated rapidly, and 2 masters, 1 human and 1 demon, appeared. They each displayed their strengths, and before the 2 masters of the sorcerer tribe could recover from their shock, they had already been dealt with cleanly. Bang! Bang! The 2 masters of the sorcerer tribe widened their eyes, and they died with grievances. Whoosh! With a flash of light, the earth-level connate treasure with golden light floated in the air and landed in the hands of a demonic man. The other man had a gloomy face, and there was no desire or jealousy in his eyes, as if he did not care at all. For you, third brother. A calm voice sounded. The demonic man waved his hand and the golden earth-level treasure was flicked out. Slap! The other gloomy man reached out and took it, smiling faintly. Thank you. Demon Kuei 2 and Lam Tok Ti. It doesn't suit me. Kuei 2 smiled faintly. He stretched out his foot and stepped on the corpse of the master of the sorcerer tribe. With a forceful stomp, he turned the corpse into a pile of meat. A ferocious pleasure flashed in his eyes. Lam Tok Ti was expressionless. He looked around and said casually, An Earth-level Kane treasure is not very useful. Kuei-tu nodded, his eyes cold. It's not easy to find a heaven-level meteor treasure. Lam Tok T's eyes flickered. We seem to lack some luck. It doesn't matter. Kuei-tu shrugged, the corners of his mouth twitching. His right hand turned into a claw and flashed with a cold light, tearing apart the corpse of the master of the sorcerer tribe. Anyway, our goal is not the meteor treasure. According to Second Brother, there are indeed 3 heavenly treasures. One was obtained by the Sorcerer Emperor, the other by the Demon Commander, and the third. Lam Tok T hesitated and looked at Kuei-Tu's. It's been so long, and there's still no news. Maybe someone got it before us. No, the heavenly treasure is still there. Kuei-Tu sneered. His claw was bloody. Oh! Lam Tok T looked at Kuei-Tu in surprise. Kuei-Tu's eyes flashed coldly. He said coldly, the news came from Second Brother. I heard that the Sorcerer Emperor personally ordered a secret search. It can't be false. Lam Tok T's eyes flashed and he nodded. The Sorcerer Emperor Jiang was unfathomable. He was also one of the heavenly treasures. If he said that the third heavenly treasure was still there, the possibility was more than 90%. Lam Tok T glanced at Kuei-Tu and smiled indifferently. If Big Brother can fuse with the last heavenly treasure, his strength will definitely increase greatly. He will be able to catch up to the Sorcerer Emperor Jiang. Of course. Kuei-Tu laughed loudly, full of arrogance. Lam Tok T also laughed, but his eyes flashed with a faint light. Who wouldn't want a heavenly treasure? However, to obtain a heavenly treasure, one must have opportunity, strength, and luck. None of these could be missing. Bull Demon had sufficient strength, but he didn't have the opportunity. To be precise, he had given his opportunity to the red-yellow essence ape as a vanguard to completely suppress the rising star of the ancient race, Gu Sheng. As for Gu Sheng, he had sufficient opportunity, but his luck was rather bad. He had encountered Bull Demon first and was severely injured later. Although he had discovered the existence of a heavenly treasure, his mental state had been shattered. Even a mere illusory fog had caused him to narrowly escape death. In the end, he had relied on his tenacious self-esteem and willpower to barely charge out of the illusory realm. However, he was physically and mentally exhausted and had completely fainted. There was only one word to describe it: unlucky. With his strength, if he could really enter the formation set up by the heavenly treasure, the light weapon, he would be able to do it. With his peak power at full strength, he did not need to expend any Herculean effort to reap the luminous item, just as he had almost reaped the luminous pillar in the scorching lands. However, there were no ifs. And the man who had defeated the demon race commander and stood at the top of the Douling world, Sorcerer Emperor Jiang. Opportunity, strength, and luck. He had all 3. However, he lacked a little life. Fate makes fools of people. Di Jiang had his hands behind his back. His golden robe was dazzling like stars. If it was worn by other cultivators, it would definitely steal the limelight. However, on Di Jiang, it was just an accessory. Even if Di Jiang didn't reveal any aura, his aura was already extremely shocking. This was the aura of an emperor. Why? Does the heavens want to destroy my sorcerer race? Gritting his teeth, Di Jiang's face was distorted and his body trembled. The star source energy couldn't stop pouring out. The entire hall shook violently. Di Jiang clenched his fists until his veins popped out. He was panting heavily. In an instant, the heavenly arc appeared in his right hand. It flashed with a proud light as if it had conquered the entire world. Tell me why. Why? His hysterical voice was filled with anger. Sorcerer Emperor Jiang seemed to have gone crazy. His trembling body couldn't stop his violent anger. It was as if the sky was about to collapse. At this moment, the sorcerer race's giant star was still dazzling in the starry sky. Not only did it suppress the ancient race and the human race, but it also completely defeated the demon race. What happened to such a powerful sorcerer race? Why did Sorcerer Emperor Jiang lose control? No one knew. Chapter 1322. Consecutive Victories. Lin Feng was unstoppable. During this period, he even used his main body to exchange with his doppelganger to help his doppelganger recover his star source energy and fight again, breaking the array with his peak strength. The attrition battle of the 108 steps was no longer useful. At least in terms of attrition, it was perfectly resolved. On the 77th step, the number of golden figures increased to 3. On the 80th step, a commander-level powerhouse appeared among the 3 golden figures. On the 83rd step, the number of golden figures increased to 4. 4 low-level Saint King Realm Masters. How strong were they? If they were ordinary 4 Saint King Realm powerhouses from the sorcerer race or the ancient race, Lin Feng had absolute confidence in defeating them. However, in this spirit array, the 4 human Saint King Realm Masters were able to rely on their seamless coordination and formation to force Lin Feng into a bitter struggle. In the end, they won. Pung! Falling heavily to the ground, Lin Feng's face was pale. Defeated. After comprehending the spear move clouds rise, this was the first time he had been defeated. Although he persevered until the last moment before being defeated, he still did not manage to break the battle array of the 4 golden figures. Even when he was about to die, he did not manage to kill any of them. This defeat seemed to be only a hair's breadth away, but in reality it was very close. So strong, Lin Feng thought to himself. His eyes were burning, and every scene of this battle appeared clearly in his mind. However, his main body was watching from the side, using his top-notch eyes to record every detail. Although he did not directly participate in the battle, it was more effective than directly participating in the battle. Failure was indispensable on the road to success. Hew. After a long breath, Lin Feng sat down cross-legged. Then, he recovered his physical strength and star source energy. His main body appeared with a swoosh, his eyes flashing brightly as he entered his own state. Supporting role. Hua. In his mind, scenes of the battle appeared one after another. It was very thrilling. Whether it was the exquisite coordination or the use of the mysteries, they all gave him a deep enlightenment. This was different from the battle between Sorcerer Emperor Di Jiang and the red-yellow ape. He could clearly see the mysteries used by the golden figures here. He could deeply understand it. Different levels of strength led to different comprehensions. Compared to the red-yellow ape's ultimate profundity that his main body could not understand at all, he could easily comprehend the profundity and power of these golden figures. That was not all. While he was comprehending the mysteries behind it, he was also familiarizing himself with the coordination of the 4 golden silhouettes, learning how to execute it, how to coordinate with each other, and what their weaknesses were. This was very important. This was because the test of every step was the same. A classic combination. War God and War God, Heavenly Spirit Master and Heavenly Soul Master. Lin Feng's eyes shone. It was not rare for him to see such cooperation in a formation within a formation. The silver figure from before was the same. However, he was powerful enough to easily break the silver figure from the middle. However, the golden figure at this moment was a different individual. Just the combined strength of these Saint Kings was enough to give Yang Kai a headache. Needless to say, every golden warrior at the beginner stage of the Saint King realm had their own unique abilities, just like the sorcerer tribe and the ancient tribe. Very strong. His strength is comparable to a true high-level Saint King sorcerer. It won't be easy to win. Exhaling lightly, Lin Feng thought to himself. Then, he closed his eyes and fell into deep thought. Compared to his clone's comprehension, His main body's comprehension was many times stronger. He had a much deeper understanding of this classic combination of tacit understanding. It was a huge project. His main body and his clone advanced side by side, dividing the work and cooperating with each other. But 83 step. There were still 25 steps to go to the 108th step. It was easier said than done. The higher they went, the more difficult it was. Fight. The sorcerer tribe was unstoppable. Sorcerer Emperor Jiang was reckless. He did not care if the demon race had an ambush or some scheme. He personally led the army and charged forward fearlessly. He had an aura that he would not stop until he achieved his goal. It was as if he knew that the demon race was not confident enough. The Battle of the Vanguard was very important. The demon race was the first to start the war. If the Vanguard army was completely wiped out, it would be a huge blow to the demon race's morale. This was especially true when their commander had been severely injured. If they were defeated again and again, it could be said that the outcome of the battle between the sorcerer and the demon race was set. After all, the demon race was formed by the connection of various races. They lacked the most important factor of unity. Moreover, the demon race would not use any complicated trick. To them, victory was very simple. In a face-to-face battle, whoever had the biggest fist would be the boss. The morale of the sorcerer tribe, the ancient race, and the 8 great regions of the human race was high. They were full of joy and confidence. It was as if with the sorcerer emperor around, there was no need to worry about anything. Wave after wave of victories not only boosted the morale of the 3 great races of the human race, but it also gave them some blind confidence. They seemed to have forgotten that it was the demon race who had always had the upper hand. Moreover, the demon race's power far surpassed that of the sorcerer tribe. Most importantly, not only did the sorcerer tribe have a new leader this time, but they also had more powerful experts from other races. They also had some middle forces such as, Third Brother, this is a great opportunity for us. The demon Kuei Tu's eyes lit up. Lam Tok T's expression was calm and composed with a hint of seriousness. I understand. After speaking slowly, Lam Tok T looked at the demon Kuei Tu and frowned slightly. But I'm a human after all. The demon race, he said hesitantly. Lam Tok T did not continue. He only looked at Kuei Tuesday. The latter grinned and patted his chest. Don't worry. I'll vouch for you in my name. The Blood Tiger race is one of the 4 royal races after all. The Blood Tiger Emperor, Kuei Tianyuan, still has considerable prestige among the demon race. Now that the new commander, the Great Sage, has been completely defeated by the Sorcerer Emperor, there are already many discordant voices among the demon race. This is a great opportunity for us. Kuei Tu looked at Lam Tok T with a cold gaze. This opportunity is hard to come by. Now that the demon race is in danger, if we can help at this moment. Kuei Tu sneered and looked at Lam Tok T. When their eyes met, some words could be understood without needing to be said. It was easy to add flowers to embroidery, but difficult to provide timely help. Lam Tok T looked at Kuei Tuesday. How could he not know what he was thinking? Indeed, this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Not only could they help the demon race balance, but they could also use this opportunity to enter the demon race's camp. If they could make a great contribution, they would definitely be valued in the future. This move was the best move for the 3 brothers. But when Kuei Tu suggested it at this moment, there was a deeper meaning. It seems that what we sensed earlier should be the location of the heavenly treasure. Lam Tok T sighed in his heart. At this moment, he was completely certain. Of all times, Kuei Tu only suggested this now. There was no doubt that he did not want him to participate in this to avoid unnecessary changes. This was Kuei Tu's selfishness, and he had no answer to refuse. I understand, big brother. Lam Tok T nodded. He did not show his thoughts on his face. Very good. Kuei Tu patted Lam Tok Ti's shoulder and smiled. You are the smartest and most capable of us three brothers. I will use my life to guarantee that I will recommend you to the Blood Tiger Emperor, Kuei Tianyuan. Perform well. The success or failure of us three brothers will depend on you. I will do my best. Lam Tok Ti smiled faintly. A glint flashed in his eyes. Although he had completely declared that he was not fated with the heavenly treasure, how could he know if it was a blessing or a curse? Perhaps there would be a glimmer of hope. Bang! Bang! Pooh! Severely injured, Lin Feng's face was dark and pale. There was a hint of helplessness in the corner of his eyes, but he stubbornly resisted. Around him, 5 auras moved rapidly. They were like 5 light spots forming a whole plane. Control, attack, defense, every aspect was complete and flawless. Their strength had already exceeded the scope of high-level Sage King. And there were only 5 golden figures. Clouds rise. Lin Feng suddenly took a step forward. His figure changed, bringing with it a heavy pressure. In the battle, he improved again and again. Now, his spear technique had already reached the limit of the 9th level, but he still had not comprehended anything from breaking through. Even so, the power of Cloud's rise was much stronger than when he had just comprehended it. But, bang! His mind shook violently. The attacks of the Heavenly Soul Masters were like invisible daggers, stabbing at invisible wounds. At the same time, water screens appeared in front of the purple crystal spear. There seemed to be endless water screens flashing at every moment. Not only did it weaken the power of Cloud's rise, but it also consumed star source energy. Most importantly, it completely disrupted the rhythm of the spear. In front of him, a war god and 2 martial gods formed the shape of a trident. One was in charge of defense and 2 were in charge of offense. The 2 different types of source energy bombarded the purple crystal spear, weakening the power of the spear again and again. The 5 auras merged into a line, and their cooperation was extremely tacit. In front of them, a huge shield appeared, colliding with Cloud's rise, creating a sonorous sound. Damn it! Lin Feng gritted his teeth, but his strength was almost exhausted. At this moment, the martial gods who had just exhausted the purple crystal spear descended at the same time, and the water screens in the sky were already dazzling. From defense to offense, it only took an instant. Too fast. Defeat. And it was a crushing defeat. Lin Feng fell heavily to the ground, lying on his back, his chest rising and falling. 3 days. He had been trapped in this level for 3 full days. However, he was still unable to break through. After passing through the 83rd level and the 87th level, he was now facing the 5 golden figures on the 91st level. They were too strong. Under the leadership of the commander-level golden figures, their power far exceeded the previous levels. Complete defeat. I can't take it anymore. Lin Feng's eyes sparkled, and he let out a long sigh. I've already reached the limit. To break through the 91st level, relying on the strength of my clone is very unlikely. Even if I break through this level, the probability of reaching the 108th level is also infinitely close to 0. Lin Feng revealed a weak smile. However, the light in his eyes did not show that he had given up, but that he was as determined as ever. Since this path was blocked, there was no need to continue. There was not only one way to reach the end. Right now, the clearest, simplest, and biggest way to increase one's strength was still another method: break through to the Saint King realm. Lin Feng's eyes burned. Chapter 1323. One family was happy while the other was sad. The 8 human regions were celebrating, but the South region was in a terrible state. The Sorcerer tribe's victory and the Demon tribe's escape forced the South region into a corner. The situation was extremely dangerous. The transportation arrays in every county were filled with cultivators of all sizes. They could not wait to leave the South region and join the other 8 regions. However, under the effective maintenance of order, Shun minimized the losses. Not bad. King Yen looked down with a burning gaze. You have to admire Lin Feng's foresight, Shun said with a smile. There was some bitterness in his smile, but it came from the bottom of his heart. Even though Lin Feng acted like a tyrant during the riot that day, but now it shows that he has made a very wise decision. Using violence to solve chaos. Using power to rule the South region, he removed all discord. Even though he's called a tyrant, at least he was able to stabilize the South region in such a dangerous situation. That's impressive. King Yen said seriously. He looked at Shun with bright eyes. Even you, eldest senior brother, can't do this, right? Shun nodded and looked at the stars. So, he's the real king of the South region, not me. Shun was full of admiration when he remembered what the heavenly secret Saint Lord said to him. He calculated it perfectly. Unfortunately, even though King Lu tried his best to persuade them to stay, many martial saints still left. King Yen shook his head and sighed. Compared to the commoners, the martial saints were the pillars of the country. They were the true embodiment of strength. The policies could restrict the commoners, but they could not restrict the saint-level experts. With their strength, they could easily cross the border and enter the wilderness. It would not be too dangerous. It's okay. If they want to leave, just leave. Shun put his hands behind his back, his eyes bright. We can use this opportunity to get rid of some cultivators who are disloyal to the southern region and Emperor Lin. If they can leave because of this today, they might betray the southern region and Emperor Lin for other reasons in the future, Shun said slowly. Shouldn't we be happy that these people are leaving? King Yen looked at Shun and nodded. Eldest senior brother's words make sense. Don't worry. Shun smiled faintly. Trust in Lin Feng. He won't be wrong. These short-sighted, foolish people will sooner or later regret the decision they made today. I'm sure. Shun's eyes shone brightly. Breaking through to the Saint King realm. Lin Feng's main body and avatar stood face to face. At this moment, his heart was incomparably calm. In this formation within a formation, he kept falling down the 108 steps, getting injured, falling down again, and getting injured again. He learned from his failures, and the path in front of him became clearer and clearer. Indeed, there were other ways to break through the 108 step. For example, fusing with a heaven-class Xiantian treasure, or fusing the Tao of metal with the Tao of strength, like the red-yellow essence ape, or comprehending a spear technique, like Sacred Lord Cloud Spear, or even surpassing the Saint King realm. There were too many ways. However, these were only methods to treat the symptoms and not the root cause. Moreover, in terms of probability, it was far from the most basic and direct method. Breaking through to the Saint King realm. Whether it's my main body or my avatar, I'm already on the verge of breaking through. As long as I cross the bottleneck, the path ahead will be clear, and I don't need any other methods. I believe that with the ability of a Saint King, I can definitely cross all 108 steps. The most important thing is, Lin Feng's eyes burned. He raised his head and looked at the light weapon. His main body's heart palpitated intensely. A heaven-class treasure required a Saint King to control and be compatible with it, and forcefully refining it required the strength of a Saint King, even if it was the lowest heaven-class red-class Xiantian treasure. So what if it was a stronger heavenly treasure? It was completely imaginable. If he passed these 108 steps, passed all the tests, and came into contact with the heavenly treasure, he would be able to control it. But at that time, if he was unable to fuse it due to insufficient strength, wouldn't it be useless and become a joke? If he wanted to do it, he had to do it cleanly. And breaking through to the Saint King realm was also one of the most basic and original goals for him to enter the wizard realm. to reach the peak of the Douling world. Only then would he be qualified to become the emperor of the human race. But Lin Feng clenched his fists tightly. Breaking through battle is the fastest and most direct method. Whether it's my main body or my clone, the stellar source energy is completely saturated, so there's no need to worry about this at all. What's left is the mystery. The unique mystery of the natal constellation. Lin Feng's eyes burned and his heart was calm. There was only one thing left. The stars in the sky contained unlimited constellation energy. The mystery was the evolution of the constellation energy, the ultimate embodiment of Tao. Comprehending the mystery was like collecting water droplets in the vast ocean of constellation Tao. 1 drop, 2 drops, 3 drops, different mysteries had different constellation Tao's water droplet. It could be more or less. A peak Saint King realm might only have 10 drops of constellation Tao, but a peak Saint King realm might have 100, 1,000, or even more drops of constellation Tao. There were no bottlenecks. If the god of war wanted to break through to the Saint King realm, he needed to activate the god of war's spirit. However, his clone had already fused into one, so he didn't have to worry about breaking through to the Starry Sky realm. Once he was strong enough, he would naturally be able to break through. It might be more troublesome for his main body, with the Phoenix natal plate as his main body, but if he obtained one of the 2 natal plates, he would be able to break through to the Saint King realm, and if he obtained the other, he would be able to break through to the Starry Sky realm. Similarly, he didn't have any obstacles. It just depended on which one could comprehend the mystery first, the existence of the constellation Tao. There are many mysteries to choose from for my clone, Lin Feng thought to himself thoughtfully. Previously, when he watched the red-yellow essence apes battle, his main body had learned many mysteries. Although they weren't that clear, at least there were many inspirations. Moreover, the mysteries used by the red-yellow essence ape were more complicated and difficult than the previous one. The constellation Tao they contained was quite rich. If he was proficient in any one of them, he would be able to break through to the Saint King realm. But I'm afraid there are many obstacles. After all, the clone and the main body are 2 different entities. Plus, the mystery of the red-yellow essence ape is still unclear, so it might not be something I'm good at. His eyes flashing, Lin Feng pondered. The mysteries used by the red-yellow essence ape all had a common characteristic, which was the perfect fusion of the Tao of strength and the Tao of gold. Regardless of the existence of these 2 Taos, he was confident in either one, but to fuse them together, the difficulty was obviously not ordinary. If it were other ancient martial artists they might choose to try. But he helplessly shaking his head, Lin Feng's eyes flashed. Fusion seemed easy, but it was actually too complicated. Until now, he couldn't really fuse the devouring fire and the rebirth fire. On the other hand, these were merely 2 types of flames. If they were 2 completely different Taos, then the difficulty of fusing them was obvious. There are now 2 mysteries of my clone. Sparrow Kill is the explosion of pure slaughter Tao, while Starfold Dance is the fusion of space Tao and strength Tao. Which one should I choose? Lin Feng pondered. If he chose to comprehend 2 mysteries at the same time, it would undoubtedly be stupid. He hadn't reached the Saint King level yet, so what he needed to consider now was to comprehend one of the mysteries and raise his realm, using the fastest method to comprehend one of the mysteries. Compared to the original body, the clone was stronger, so it would naturally be stronger after reaching the Saint King level. Especially the body. At that time, the body that had already reached the peak of the Saint King level would become extremely terrifying. It was hard to estimate. The importance of the body was self-evident. Looking at which Emperor Zhang's speed in space, and the red-yellow essence ape's toughness and defense, it was obvious. Moreover, compared to the original body, the clone had a stronger recovery ability. Here, which was very important. It meant that the clone would have more time to train by fighting than the original body. The mysteries of the two mysteries should be similar, Lin Feng thought to himself. For example, the same thousand droplets constellation Tao, and the same realm, the starfold dance is undoubtedly stronger, but, at the same time, the difficulty of comprehending it is also higher. I'll still choose Sparrow Kill. Lin Feng's eyes brightened. He didn't hesitate for too long and made the most rational decision. What he needed now wasn't the strength of the mysteries, but the difficulty and speed of comprehending it. In this aspect, Sparrow Kill won. Clenching his fist, a murderous aura rose. Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly and he smiled slightly. It's also in line with the goal of training by fighting. Let's begin. Letting out a long breath, Lin Feng stepped onto the stairs again. However, this time, he didn't have the purple crystal spear in his hand. Instead, a thick murderous aura shot out and gathered in his fist. In an instant, his entire aura changed. Sparrow Kill, the source of the mysteries, was the murderous aura. Comprehending by fighting, Lin Feng started a new rhythm and melody. At this moment, not far from the great array, the demon Kuei-tu sent off Lam Tok Ti. A cold smile appeared on his face, and he looked up to the sky and laughed. Jia 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 jia. The hoarse and unpleasant laughter was like coins scraping on glass. Every word gave people goosebumps. His original form appeared behind him. It was a ferocious tiger with blood-red eyes. One of the 4 emperors of the demon race, the Blood Tiger clan. The strength of a sage king surged. Third brother, you have to work harder. Don't let me down. Kuei-tu smiled coldly and arrogantly. As for the heavenly treasure, don't get involved. It's not that I'm stingy, but I don't have the strength yet. With a cold glint in his eyes, Kuei-tu turned into a flash of light and disappeared on the spot. There were afterimages, and his strength was extremely terrifying. His current body and the existence of a powerful soul had created the birth of a demon that was 100 times more terrifying than before. His existence would definitely affect the rhythm of the entire great Magi-Demon War. And the direction he was heading in, it was where the fearsome ground was. Kuei-tu had discovered the heavenly treasure. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.